Beneath the ruins of empires and the dust of forgotten ages lie questions humanity has never been able to answer. Massive stones cut with impossible precision, symbols carved into the earth that can only be seen from the sky, objects that seem centuries ahead of their time. These are not legends or fairy tales. They are real discoveries, standing silently across the world, defying everything we think we know about history. For every artifact carefully cataloged in a museum, there are others that whisper of lost civilizations, secret knowledge, and technologies beyond imagination. Who built these monuments? What message were they trying to leave behind? And perhaps most unsettling of all, why do so many of these mysteries remain unsolved even after centuries of study? Tonight, we journey into the unknown. From desert sands to jungle temples, from ancient scripts to enigmatic relics, we'll uncover the most baffling archaeological enigmas still haunting scholars today. So sit back, open your mind, and step with me into the shadows of history, where the past refuses to give up all its secrets. Let's dive into the world of archaeological mysteries that remain unsolved. On the windswept plains of modern-day Turkey lies the ancient site of Hizarlik, a mound of earth concealing layer upon layer of vanished civilizations. Here, according to legend, once stood Troy, the fabled city immortalized in Homer's epics, a city of warriors, kings, and a 10-year siege that has haunted the human imagination for over 2 millennia. It was here, in the 19th century, that a German businessman turned archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann began his search for proof of the Trojan War. And it was here, in 1873, that he claimed to have unearthed something extraordinary, a glittering cache of gold and artifacts he called Priam's treasure. The objects Schliemann revealed were breathtaking. Diadems of finely worked gold, delicate earrings, necklaces of amber and lapis lazuli, silver vessels, bronze weapons, and cups said to belong to kings. Photographs show his wife, Sophia, draped in the so-called Jewels of Helen, her figure adorned with treasures said to have graced the halls of Troy more than 3,000 years ago. To Schliemann, this was not just a collection of artifacts. It was tangible proof that Homer's tales were grounded in history. But the discovery was shadowed from the beginning. Schliemann, ambitious and impatient, often blurred the line between science and storytelling. He claimed to have found the treasure deep within the site, hidden in a chest beside the walls of what he believed to be Priam's citadel. Yet later excavations revealed that the layer where he worked did not belong to the time of the Trojan War at all. The artifacts, most scholars now believe, came from a settlement centuries older than Homer's Troy. If that is true, then the glittering trove cannot have belonged to Priam, or Helen, or any figure from the epic cycle. Was Schliemann mistaken, or did he knowingly bend the truth to fit his narrative? The story grows even murkier when we follow the trail of the treasure itself. Smuggled out of Ottoman lands in violation of excavation laws, the artifacts passed into Schliemann's personal collection before eventually finding their way to Berlin. During World War II, as bombs fell on the city, the treasure vanished. For decades, it was thought destroyed. Only in the 1990s did the world learn that much of it had survived, secretly taken to Moscow by the Soviet Army and hidden in the Pushkin Museum, where it remains to this day, claimed by Russia, desired by Turkey, and remembered by Germany. The treasure, once lost in the earth, is now entangled in the politics of nations. And yet, questions linger far beyond issues of ownership. What exactly is Priam's treasure? If it is not from Homeric Troy, then whose hands forged it, and for what purpose? Was it a royal hoard, a sacred offering, or simply the wealth of a prosperous Bronze Age city? Why were so many of the objects deliberately buried? Were they hidden in haste, perhaps in the face of invasion, or carefully stored as part of a ritual tradition now lost to us? Some scholars have even suggested that Schliemann's tale of discovery may not be entirely true. His accounts shifted over time, and inconsistencies in his journals raise the possibility that he moved artifacts from one context to another, or combined finds from multiple layers into a single story. If so, then the treasure may be less a single deposit than a patchwork of unrelated objects, stitched together to create a narrative grand enough to capture the world's attention. Still, the allure of the treasure refuses to fade. To some, it represents the dream of linking myth to history, the hope that behind every legend lies a kernel of truth waiting to be unearthed. Others see it as a cautionary tale, a reminder that archaeology, especially in its infancy, was often shaped by ambition, nationalism, and personal glory as much as by science. And yet, there are more speculative voices as well. Could Schliemann, in his haste, have stumbled onto evidence of a civilization older than Troy, one whose story remains unwritten? Might the treasure point to forgotten trade networks, stretching across the Bronze Age world from Mesopotamia to the Aegean? Some even whisper of connections to lost civilizations spoken of only in fragments and myths. What remains certain is this: the objects themselves still exist, and they still inspire awe. To gaze upon the delicate goldwork, impossibly preserved through the centuries, is to glimpse a world at once alien and familiar. The craftsmen who shaped these treasures lived and died thousands of years ago, yet their artistry still speaks across time, reminding us that the people of the ancient world were not shadows or abstractions, but human beings with ambition, creativity, and a desire to endure. The treasure of Priam may never tell us exactly who buried it, or why. It may never prove or disprove the truth of Homer's Troy. But perhaps that is the point. Some mysteries resist resolution, not because answers do not exist, but because they are buried in a past too complex for easy explanation. And so, the gold of Troy, or not of Troy, remains a mirror of our own longing. We look at it and see the myths we hope to confirm, the histories we wish to write, the civilizations we imagine into being. Whether it is truly Priam's or not, the treasure continues to hold power, precisely because it refuses to give us certainty. Could it be that somewhere beneath the soil of Hisarlik, or in another forgotten mound, more treasures lie waiting? Artifacts that might one day clarify this enigma or deepen it even further. Until that day, Priam's treasure endures as both artifact and riddle, glittering with all the weight of history and all the silence of mystery. From the glittering gold of ancient Troy, we shift now to a far quieter mystery, one hidden not in jewelry or weapons, but in the preserved remains of a single human life. Thousands of miles from the ruins of Hisarlik, in the arid expanse of Nevada's Great Basin, lies Spirit Cave, a shallow opening in the earth, unremarkable at first glance, yet home to one of the most enigmatic discoveries in North American archaeology, the Spirit Cave mummy. The landscape surrounding Spirit Cave is stark and desolate. Wind sweeps across sagebrush and sun-bleached stone, carrying with it the silence of centuries. It was in this lonely setting in 1940 that two archaeologists, Sidney and Georgia Wheeler, entered the cave and found something astonishing. Wrapped in a mat of reeds, protected by layers of tulle and fur, lay the remarkably preserved remains of a man. His hair still intact. His skin leathery but recognizable. The desert had guarded him for thousands of years. At first, the mummy was dated to only about 1,500 years old. An important find, certainly, but not extraordinary in the broader story of North America. Yet in the 1990s, radiocarbon analysis told a different story. The man from Spirit Cave was far older, about 10,600 years before present, older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, older even than most of the great civilizations we recognize as the birthplaces of human culture. This revelation stunned archaeologists. Here in a Nevada cave lay the oldest known naturally mummified human in North America. Who was he? What people did he belong to? And how had his remains survived so perfectly through the endless turning of millennia? The questions multiplied. His physical features, some researchers argued, did not neatly resemble those of modern Native American populations. Early speculation suggested affinities with peoples from regions as distant as Japan or even Europe. Such interpretations were controversial, touching on the deeply sensitive issue of ancestry and identity. For Native communities, the remains were not abstract data points, but a human ancestor, someone who lived, breathed, and belonged to the land. The controversy soon escalated into one of the most debated cases in the history of American archaeology. The Falun Paiute Shoshone tribe, whose ancestral lands include Spirit Cave, requested that the remains be returned and reburied according to tradition. Scientists, however, argued that more study was needed, that the mummy could provide critical clues about the earliest migrations into the Americas. This conflict mirrored another famous case, the Kennewick Man, discovered in Washington state in 1996, which sparked decades of legal and ethical battles. For nearly 20 years, the Spirit Cave mummy remained at the center of this tense debate. At stake was not only a single individual, but a broader question. How should the remains of ancient people be treated? Are they scientific specimens or human ancestors whose wishes must be honored through their descendants? Eventually, modern science provided an answer. In 2016, genetic testing was carried out on the mummy. The results were clear. Despite earlier speculation, the Spirit Cave Man was indeed an ancestor of contemporary Native Americans, directly linked to the Falun Paiute Shoshone tribe. Following this discovery in 2018, the remains were finally returned to the tribe and given a ceremonial reburial. For the community, it was an act of closure, a recognition of ancestral continuity stretching back over 10,000 years. And yet, even with this resolution, mysteries remain. Who was this man in life? What did he see in a world so different from ours when Ice Age glaciers still lingered on distant mountains? How did his people survive in the harsh climate of the Great Basin, long before farming, long before cities, long before writing? His body tells us that he lived into middle age, that he suffered injuries, that he carried the traces of a life of endurance. But his voice and the culture around him have vanished. Some researchers continue to speculate about the deeper implications. The Spirit Cave mummy represents not just one person, but an entire population of early Americans whose story is only partially known. What other remains, still undiscovered, might rewrite our understanding of migration, adaptation, and survival on this continent? Could Spirit Cave hold more secrets, still hidden in the dark recesses of stone? Others wonder about the broader patterns. Genetic testing confirms continuity, but the physical variation seen in ancient remains across the Americas suggests a complex and dynamic history, waves of migration, intermingling, adaptation to diverse landscapes. Was the Spirit Caveman part of the very first wave of humans to cross into the Americas? Or was he descended from groups who arrived later, carrying with them traditions and tools that we have yet to fully recognize? Even more speculative theories drift into the discussion. Some suggest that unusual physical traits in ancient remains hint at contact with distant populations across oceans, long before Columbus or even the Vikings. Others propose that the diversity we see in early skeletons reflects the sheer adaptability of the first Americans, capable of thriving in environments as different as Arctic tundra and desert basin. None of these ideas are fully proven, but they remind us how much of this story remains unwritten. Today, Spirit Cave is quiet again. The remains are gone, laid to rest as the tribe desired. Yet the discovery lingers both as a scientific milestone and as a cultural touchstone. It reminds us that beneath the soil of even the most unassuming landscapes lie stories capable of challenging what we think we know about human history. The Spirit Cave mummy is, in the end, both a solved and an unsolved mystery. We know his age. We know his ancestry. We know, in broad strokes, that he belongs to the deep human story of North America. But the details, the language he spoke, the beliefs he held, the world he imagined when he looked at the stars, are beyond our reach. Perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Not the unanswered scientific questions, but the simple, enduring reminder of how much has been lost and how much remains hidden. For every mummy that emerges from the earth, how many more rest in silence, waiting for discovery, or perhaps destined never to be found? From the silent deserts of Nevada, where one man's preserved body stirred questions of ancestry and survival, we now cross an ocean and step into the Mediterranean world, into a place where artifacts whisper not of flesh and bone, but of symbols, language, and the fragile line between ritual and mystery. On the island of Crete, in a small cave near the village of Arkalochori, an object was uncovered that continues to puzzle archaeologists and linguists alike: the Arkalochori Axe. The cave itself is unremarkable, a dark chamber cut into limestone, long used as a site of offerings in the Bronze Age. Excavations revealed weapons, jewelry, and ritual implements deposited across centuries, evidence of devotion to the gods worshipped by the ancient Minoans. But among these items, unearthed in the early 20th century, was something extraordinary: a bronze double axe, or labrys, covered with strange markings that resemble no ordinary decoration. At first glance, the axe is striking in its simplicity. A broad blade, its surface engraved with rows of tiny symbols, 60 or more, laid out with careful precision. To the casual eye, they might appear ornamental, but on closer inspection, they suggest something far more deliberate. They look like characters, perhaps even a form of writing. This possibility immediately drew comparison to another enigmatic discovery from Crete: the Phaistos disc, a clay tablet pressed with mysterious signs arranged in a spiral. The disc has long been debated. Some see it as a unique ritual object, others as evidence of an unknown script. The Arkalochori Axe, with its own inscrutable markings, seemed to echo that enigma. Could the two be connected? Were they both fragments of a lost system of writing, an undeciphered language of the Minoan world? Mainstream scholarship remains cautious. Some experts argue that the markings on the axe are not true writing at all, but rather pseudoscript, symbols imitating the look of writing without encoding actual language. Others suggest that the engravings may be ritual signs, understood within a specific cult or priestly tradition, but never meant for broader communication. Still others believe the axe may hold the earliest evidence of Linear A, the undeciphered script of Minoan Crete. If so, the Arkalochori Axe could be a missing piece of a linguistic puzzle that has resisted interpretation for more than a century. The questions multiply as we consider the cultural setting. The labrys, the double axe, was a powerful symbol in Minoan religion, associated with sacrifice and divine authority. It appears in frescoes, shrines, and palace complexes across Crete. Was the Arkalochori Axe a ceremonial object, engraved with sacred signs meant to invoke protection or power? Or was it a record, inscribed with words that once carried meaning, now lost to time? Some interpretations push further into speculation. A handful of researchers have suggested connections between the Arkalochori symbols and other ancient scripts, from Anatolia to Mesopotamia, hinting at cross-cultural exchanges in the Bronze Age Mediterranean. Others see in the axe's engravings a precursor to the later Greek alphabet, a transitional moment in the evolution of writing. More fringe theories even link the object to Atlantis or to civilizations otherwise unknown, suggesting that the axe preserves traces of a forgotten world erased from history. And yet, despite decades of study, the symbols remain silent. No key, no bilingual inscription like the Rosetta Stone has emerged to unlock their meaning. The axe sits at the boundary of certainty and speculation, reminding us how fragile our grasp on the ancient world truly is. The object's very survival is remarkable. Buried in the cave, it escaped looting and destruction, enduring until modern excavation brought it back into the light. But its discovery also raises unsettling questions. If this single axe bears such symbols, how many other inscribed objects once existed on Crete? Objects now lost, melted down, or still waiting to be found. Was writing more widespread in the Minoan world than we realize, its traces erased by time and disaster? The Minoan civilization itself is steeped in mystery. Flourishing on Crete more than 3,000 years ago, it left behind palaces with labyrinthine halls, vibrant frescoes, and elaborate religious symbols, but no fully deciphered texts to tell us its stories in its own words. Linear A, the script carved into tablets and seals, remains undeciphered. Linear B, used later by the Mycenaeans, was cracked in the 1950s and revealed an early form of Greek. But Linear A, and perhaps the signs on the Arkalochori Axe, guard their silence. We see the outlines of a great civilization, but we do not hear its voice. So the axe becomes more than a single artifact. It becomes a symbol of the larger enigma of Minoan culture. Was this a society whose secrets are forever beyond our reach? Or are we standing on the edge of understanding, waiting for the right discovery, the right connection, to break the code? The Arkalochori Axe, resting now in the Heraclean Archaeological Museum, invites us to imagine, to picture the hands that engraved those symbols, to wonder what message, sacred, mundane, or profound, they intended to carry. Was it a prayer, a dedication, a warning, a story? Or was it never meant to be read in the way we imagine, but instead to exist as a sacred object whose power lay in mystery itself? The questions remain unresolved. Each visitor who gazes upon the axe finds themselves asking, what do these symbols mean? Are we staring at a lost language or at an illusion of writing? And if meaning lies hidden there, what secrets of the Minoan world might it reveal? Perhaps, as with so many ancient mysteries, the truth lies buried deeper, still concealed in caves, in ruins, or in artifacts yet to be uncovered. The Arkalochori Axe stands as a reminder that history is not a closed book, but a fragmentary text scattered across time. And every fragment, every symbol, every artifact carries the possibility of revelation. From the caves of Crete, where undeciphered symbols cling stubbornly to bronze, we now move deeper into Africa, into the deserts of Upper Egypt, where the Nile winds silently past cliffs and shifting sands. It is here, in the region of Nazlet, Khater, that archaeologists uncovered a discovery unlike any other. Not a temple, not a monument, not an inscribed tablet, but the fragile remains of one of the oldest known skeletons of modern humans in North Africa. The Nazlet Khater skeleton was found in 1980, buried within a shallow grave cut into limestone rock. The man who once lived here lay curled, as if resting in eternal sleep, his bones remarkably preserved despite the weight of thousands of years. Around him, stone tools and a polished adze were placed, objects of craft and purpose, suggesting not only survival but ritual. His grave, some 33,000 years old, reaches back into the depths of prehistory, long before pharaohs raised their pyramids or hieroglyphs lit the walls of temples. What makes this skeleton extraordinary is not just its age, but what it reveals and what it refuses to reveal about the people who lived on the African continent tens of millennia ago. On one hand, Nazlet Khater II, as the skeleton is formally known, is clearly a member of our own species, Homo sapiens sapiens. Yet his physical features are strikingly unusual. His skull is long and low, his brow ridges more pronounced than those of most modern humans, his jaw heavy and robust. Some traits appear archaic, almost reminiscent of earlier human species. Others align more closely with present-day populations. He seems to stand at the threshold of humanity's unfolding, a reminder that the journey from archaic to modern was not a straight line, but a complex web. Who was this man? Was he part of a population that has since vanished, leaving no direct descendants? Or do echoes of his people still live on, hidden in the genetic threads of North Africa's diverse populations? The tools found in his grave complicate the story further. The polished adze, carefully crafted, hints at sophistication, at symbolic thought, perhaps even at ritual behavior. Burial itself implies something more than practicality. It suggests belief, reverence, a sense of connection to the dead. Yet, why would such an ancient human, carrying traits so distinctive, be buried in this way? Was this an isolated practice, or part of a broader cultural tradition now lost to time? For scientists, the Nazlet Khater skeleton occupies a critical place in the study of human evolution. His presence in Upper Egypt challenges simple models of migration. Did his people descend from early waves of modern humans moving out of Africa, later blending with populations returning from Eurasia? Or does he represent an early local population that evolved in relative isolation, carrying both ancient and modern traits? The debate stretches into broader questions. For decades, the story of human origins was told as a simple march out of Africa, with populations dispersing in neat waves across the globe. But discoveries like Nazlet Khater complicate that narrative. What if human history was less a straight exodus and more a series of movements back and forth, migrations, returns, interminglings, spanning continents and tens of thousands of years? Some researchers have even suggested that the robust traits of the Nazlet Khater skeleton may indicate interbreeding with archaic humans, perhaps groups not yet fully identified. Others see him as evidence of regional continuity, a population rooted deeply in the Nile Valley, bridging the ancient past with the beginnings of African prehistory that would eventually give rise to complex societies. And then there are the more speculative interpretations. Some claim the unusual features of the skeleton might suggest contact with populations far beyond Africa earlier than we once believed, hinting at prehistoric networks stretching from the Nile to the Levant, or even deeper into Eurasia. Others wonder if the unique burial practice and symbolic artifacts represent a cultural tradition we have scarcely glimpsed, a civilization of thought and ritual that flourished, then disappeared, leaving only this solitary grave behind. Yet, despite all these theories, much remains uncertain. DNA evidence that could provide clarity is limited, degraded by the passage of time. The archaeological record in this region is fragmentary, broken by shifting sands and human activity across millennia. The Nazlet Khater skeleton stands almost alone, a single data point in a vast and largely invisible history. And perhaps this is what makes him so haunting. Unlike the grand monuments of Egypt, which overwhelm with scale and permanence, the Nazlet Khater skeleton whispers. He is one man, buried in stone, carrying within his bones the story of a people we can no longer fully see. Was he a hunter, a craftsman, a leader? Did he die young, or after a long life of endurance in the harsh Nile Valley landscape? Did his family mourn him, shaping the earth to cradle his body with tools and offerings? We cannot know. We can only infer, piece by fragile piece. What we do know is this: discoveries like Nazlet Khater blur the lines between science and mystery. They remind us that the deep past is not a clear record, but a puzzle with missing pieces, where each new find reshapes the picture and deepens the questions. As we stand at the edge of that grave, peering into the ancient silence, we are left to wonder, how many more skeletons lie hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, unexcavated, waiting to speak? How many more clues remain buried in limestone caves and forgotten valleys, each holding fragments of a story too vast for us to fully grasp? The Nazlet Khater man remains both familiar and alien, one of us, yet not entirely. A messenger from a time before history, carrying secrets that may never be fully understood. And so, as with so many mysteries, we are left with questions. Who was he, truly? Where did his people come from, and where did they go? And what might his silent bones still have to tell us, if only we could learn to listen? From the ancient skeleton resting in the limestone of Nazlet Khater, a reminder of the fragile human story, we now turn to another relic of Egypt's past, one not of bone but of ink and papyrus. Where the Nazlet Khater man speaks to us in silence, this artifact seems to speak in symbols and lines, carefully drawn across a sheet of papyrus nearly 3,000 years ago. It is known today as the Turin Papyrus Map, and it may be the oldest surviving topographical map in the world. At first glance, the map appears deceptively simple: faded lines of black and red ink, sketches of hills and valleys, inscriptions identifying locations. But upon closer study, it becomes clear that this document is unlike anything else from ancient Egypt. Most surviving papyri are filled with religious texts, funerary spells, or administrative accounts. The Turin Papyrus Map, however, is something different, an attempt to capture the physical landscape itself, a record not of gods or kings, but of stone, mountains, and pathways. The map was created during the reign of Ramesses IV, around 1150 BCE. Its purpose, according to most scholars, was practical: to guide expeditions through the eastern desert of Egypt, specifically to the region of Wadi Hammamat, where valuable stone was quarried. This rugged desert gorge was famed for its deposits of greywacke and gold-bearing quartz, materials highly prized by the pharaohs. The map shows roads, settlements, and even annotations about the quality of the stone. In a sense, it is both a guidebook and a resource catalog, intended to aid royal workers in extracting wealth from the desert. But beyond its utility, the Turin Papyrus Map poses deeper questions. How advanced was Egyptian knowledge of cartography? Was this map a singular experiment, or part of a broader, now-lost tradition of surveying and recording landscapes? If this is merely the oldest surviving example, how many others may have once existed, destroyed by time, or still hidden in the sands? The level of detail is striking. The map is oriented along a route from east to west, showing the course of the desert road, the location of stone quarries, and even the distribution of gold mines. The hills are shaded to indicate slope, an artistic choice that has led some to describe it as the first attempt at geological mapping. Inscriptions identify not only the places, but also the nature of their resources. Good stone for statues is marked at one site, gold at another. For a civilization that often expressed itself in monumental scale, here is a document that reduces the vastness of the land into a carefully measured image. And yet, the Turin Papyrus Map is not without puzzles. Parts of it are missing, damaged by centuries of decay. The surviving fragments are incomplete, leaving scholars to reconstruct its original form. Was it once much larger? Did it show more of the desert, perhaps even extending beyond Wadi Hammamat? If so, what else might it have depicted? There is also the matter of its uniqueness. Why has no other Egyptian map of this kind survived? The Egyptians were skilled surveyors, capable of measuring fields, aligning pyramids with cardinal points and managing irrigation systems with precision. Surely they must have used diagrams, sketches, and records to support such work. Was the Turin Papyrus Map preserved merely by chance, while countless others were lost? Or was it created for a special purpose, perhaps a particularly ambitious expedition, or a royal commission that demanded a permanent record? Some researchers have ventured into more speculative territory. Could maps like this have been used for more than quarrying? Might they have served in military campaigns, in long-distance trade, or even in planning monumental constructions? Could the Turin Papyrus hint at a lost archive of geographic knowledge, once kept in temple libraries or in the famed but vanished Library of Alexandria? Others raise still stranger possibilities. The unusual shading of the hills has led a few to argue that the map shows not just location, but topography in a surprisingly modern sense, a visual attempt to capture the three-dimensional shape of the land. If so, does this suggest a more sophisticated scientific outlook than we often attribute to ancient Egypt? Was this truly the first stirrings of geology, millennia before the term even existed? And then there are the enduring questions about what the map represents beyond stone and gold. The Eastern Desert was more than a quarry. It was a crossroads of routes leading into the Red Sea and beyond. Expeditions may have passed through here carrying not only tools and soldiers, but also stories, goods, and ideas from distant lands. Could the Turin Papyrus Map, in its own way, reflect a world of movement and connection, where the desert was not a barrier but a highway of exchange? In the end, we are left with fragments, a sheet of papyrus, lines of ink, and the knowledge that we hold only part of the story. To the Egyptians who created it, the map was likely a practical tool designed for a specific task. To us, centuries later, it has become something more, a rare window into how an ancient civilization viewed and recorded its physical world. But like so many relics, the map resists full explanation. Was it one of many or a singular creation? Was it a work of science, art, or ritual? Does it represent the beginning of a cartographic tradition, or merely a remarkable anomaly? Standing before it today in the Museo Egizio in Turin, one can almost sense the voices of the scribes who drew it, the workers who followed its lines into the desert, the pharaohs who demanded the treasures it helped reveal. And one is left to wonder, how much knowledge have we lost? What other maps, records, or archives once existed, swept away by fire, conquest, and the slow erosion of time? The Turin Papyrus Map endures as a fragile fragment of an immense, untold story. It invites us to see not only the lines on papyrus, but the shadows of a knowledge we can only guess at. And it leaves us with a question. If such a map could survive against all odds, what else may still lie hidden, waiting for discovery, waiting to redraw our understanding of the ancient world? From the faded ink of the Turin Papyrus Map, where ancient Egyptians recorded their desert roads and quarries, we now journey far to the north, to a windswept archipelago in the North Atlantic. Here, among the jagged cliffs and rolling green fields of Orkney, lies one of the most remarkable windows into prehistoric life, the Skara Brae settlement. Skara Brae is not a grand monument of stone or gold, nor a temple carved to honor kings or gods. Instead, it is a village frozen in time, a place where ordinary lives, lived thousands of years ago, left traces that endure more vividly than almost any other Neolithic site in Europe. Buried for centuries beneath the earth and sand, the settlement was uncovered in 1850 by a fierce storm, revealing stone houses that seemed almost miraculous in their preservation. Walls, beds, and hearths survived intact, arranged with careful precision, offering an unparalleled glimpse into the domestic world of a people who lived here more than 5,000 years ago. The houses themselves are compact and connected, each structured with built-in furniture and storage, stone dressers and beds, and evidence of daily rituals. The narrow passageways between homes suggest not only an intimate community, but also a design dictated by the harsh climate, protective, efficient, and resilient. From the simplicity of their dwellings emerges a profound sense of sophistication. These were people who understood their environment, who planned and adapted with intelligence and foresight. Yet even within this familiarity, mysteries abound. How did such a community arise in this remote location, on islands exposed to relentless winds and waves? The inhabitants left behind no written records, no language we can decipher. Only the material culture survives. Tools of bone and stone, ornaments of shell and ivory, and the remnants of daily life. And while these objects tell us much about how they lived, they whisper very little about why they lived this way or what they believed. One of the most striking features of Skara Brae is its organization. Unlike many Neolithic settlements, which appear scattered or irregular, the village exhibits a deliberate layout. Houses cluster together, connected by low, covered passageways, and oriented to face prevailing winds or perhaps the rising sun. Some archaeologists suggest this design may indicate not only practical considerations, but a sophisticated understanding of community planning, social structure, and even early architecture. Did these arrangements reflect a governing order, a spiritual principle, or simply pragmatic adaptation to the environment? The evidence cannot fully answer. The artifacts recovered here also raise questions. Stone tools are abundant, finely crafted, and highly functional. Decorative items, beads, carved figurines, and incised bone objects suggest a symbolic or artistic dimension to life in Skara Brae. Yet these artifacts hint at practices and beliefs that remain mysterious. Were the figurines protective charms, toys, religious icons, or something else entirely? How did these people interpret their world, and what unseen forces guided their lives and decisions? Equally puzzling is the question of Skara Brae's abrupt abandonment. Around 2500 BCE, for reasons still unknown, the settlement was vacated, leaving homes intact, hearths undisturbed, and possessions behind. Archaeologists have proposed several explanations: environmental change, rising sea levels, disease, or social upheaval. The islands of Orkney are susceptible to storm surges and erosion even today. Could dramatic climate shifts have forced the villagers to leave? Or did social factors, perhaps internal conflict or migration, play a role? Whatever the cause, the result is a village frozen in time, a snapshot of a vanished world. Speculative theories add further intrigue. Some suggest that Skara Brae, with its subterranean passages and unusual artifacts, may have served ritual or ceremonial purposes beyond ordinary domestic life. Could the layout of houses and passageways reflect cosmological beliefs, alignment with celestial events, or sacred paths? Others note similarities to other Neolithic sites across Europe, hinting at cultural networks and shared traditions that we barely understand. The village may have been one node in a far-reaching web of prehistoric knowledge and exchange. Despite its age, Skara Brae resonates with immediacy. Standing among its stone walls, one can almost imagine the rhythm of daily life: children playing on the flagstones, women preparing meals over the hearth, men fashioning tools from bone and flint. The smell of smoke, the sound of wind through passageways, the weight of a society attuned to its environment. It all feels tangible. And yet, we are left with profound questions. What beliefs guided them? What stories did they tell? What fears and hopes shaped each decision in their lives? Skara Brae also challenges assumptions about the past. For a long time, early European societies were imagined as primitive, scattered, and unsophisticated. Here, we see a community with complex planning, social cohesion, and material culture that rivals contemporary settlements elsewhere in the world. How did such knowledge develop in relative isolation, and why did it vanish? What lessons were lost to time when the village was abandoned? The settlement's discovery reminds us of the fragile nature of human memory. Unlike monuments carved into stone or texts preserved on papyrus, Skara Brae lay hidden beneath sand for millennia, waiting for circumstance to reveal it. What other villages, towns, and entire civilizations remain buried beneath fields, deserts, or forests, their stories waiting for storms, erosion, or excavation to bring them back into light? Ultimately, Skara Brae invites reflection on the continuity and impermanence of human life. These stone walls endured, but the people who built them vanished from the record, leaving only material traces and tantalizing glimpses into their world. The settlement is both familiar and alien, a mirror of ourselves, yet untranslatable, a civilization whose thoughts and beliefs remain forever partially obscured. As we leave the wind-swept cliffs of Orkney, one is struck by the enduring questions Skara Brae poses. Who were the people who lived here, and how did they understand their world? Why did they abandon a place that seems so carefully planned and adapted to its environment? And what else might remain hidden beneath the soil of our own continents, waiting for the right storm or the right hand to reveal it? In the quiet of these ruins, the village continues to speak. Not in words, but in stone, in passageways, in the careful placement of hearths and beds. Skara Brae challenges us to listen closely, to read the traces of lives long gone, and to confront the limits of what we know about the ancient past. And as we move forward in our journey through the mysteries of history, it leaves us with a simple, haunting question. How much of human experience has been lost, and what treasures, stories, or secrets might still lie just beneath the surface waiting for discovery? From the wind-swept stones of Orkney, where Skara Brae whispers of vanished communities and domestic rituals, we journey now to the heart of the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization itself. Between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where the land has been tilled and settled for millennia, archaeologists have unearthed countless artifacts that illuminate the dawn of writing, governance, and city life. Among these discoveries are the Anunnaki Tablets, a collection of ancient clay inscriptions that have fascinated scholars and captivated the imagination of the world. The tablets themselves are unassuming at first glance. Small pieces of baked clay, etched with thousands of wedge-shaped symbols in cuneiform, the earliest known system of writing. Yet their significance is anything but ordinary. Dating as far back as 2300 BCE, these inscriptions describe the gods of Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki, beings said to descend from the heavens, shaping human history and overseeing the destinies of kings and civilizations. Some tablets recount rituals and offerings, others chronicle laws or astronomical observations, but interwoven throughout are stories that hint at something far more profound. A connection between mortals and entities who exist beyond ordinary understanding. The very term Anunnaki evokes mystery. In Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are portrayed as powerful deities, judges of the underworld and arbiters of human fate. They are often associated with creation myths, credited with shaping humanity itself, assigning roles to mankind, and distributing divine authority. Scholars generally interpret these tales as symbolic narratives reflective of Sumerian cosmology and social order. Yet the texts also describe journeys, technologies, and feats that seem, at times, almost beyond the capabilities of Bronze Age societies. Astronomical knowledge, mining expeditions, and precise architectural instructions. Some passages are especially intriguing. They describe beings descending from the sky, dwelling among humans and imparting knowledge that transformed early civilization. References to gold mining, irrigation systems, and city planning are intertwined with myths of celestial beings. Mainstream archaeologists interpret these as allegorical, representing the gods' influence on human culture. But the vividness of the accounts has led to more speculative theories. Could these texts record the memory of encounters with entities unknown to us, or ancient technologies now lost? Were these stories purely symbolic, or could they preserve echoes of real events filtered through myth? The tablets' physicality also adds to their mystique. Each one is inscribed with meticulous care, signs arranged with deliberate spacing, often with annotations to clarify meaning. The skill required to produce them reflects not only literacy, but a deep reverence for the subjects they describe. Writing itself, in Sumeria, was sacred, a medium connecting humans to divine authority. Could the act of inscribing these texts have been intended as a ritual as much as a record? And if so, what layers of meaning remain hidden beneath the literal words? Scholars have spent generations attempting to decode these texts. Some focus on the religious and mythological dimensions, interpreting the Anunnaki as deities within a complex pantheon. Others examine the historical references, kingship lists, administrative records, trade routes, and accounts of warfare. Yet even the most careful readings leave unanswered questions. Why do certain Anunnaki appear inconsistently across tablets? Why are some described in human-like terms while others are attributed supernatural abilities? And why do so many of the texts describe journeys and actions that seem to extend far beyond Mesopotamia, hinting at knowledge of distant lands and celestial phenomena? The more speculative interpretations have captured public imagination. Some suggest that the tablets are evidence of contact between humans and extraterrestrial visitors, the Anunnaki as beings from another world who guided the development of civilization. Others argue that the texts encode advanced scientific knowledge in metaphorical language, a repository of observations about astronomy, geology, and human society that we are only beginning to understand. Mainstream scholarship treats these ideas cautiously, emphasizing the symbolic and mythological context, yet the allure remains. The possibility that these tablets preserve knowledge that exceeds our conventional historical framework. One particularly striking aspect is the way the Anunnaki are depicted as both benefactors and enforcers. They bring knowledge, resources, and guidance, yet they also wield authority and judgment, holding humans accountable. Could this duality reflect a collective memory of powerful leaders, natural forces, or societal structures codified as divine in origin? Or might it hint at something more enigmatic, a recognition of forces in the natural world, or even in the cosmos, that shaped human destiny in ways our ancestors tried to conceptualize through myth? The archaeological context of the tablets adds another layer to the mystery. They were often buried in temple complexes, repositories of knowledge meant to endure, and yet many were later destroyed, lost, or fragmented. The surviving texts are tantalizingly incomplete, leaving gaps in our understanding and inviting conjecture. What other tablets once existed, recording histories or instructions now lost to time? Could entire libraries of Anunnaki knowledge have been buried, awaiting rediscovery, or are their secrets forever beyond our reach? Despite the millennia, the tablets continue to speak to us, challenging our assumptions about human history. They remind us that ancient civilizations were capable of astonishing complexity. Urban planning, sophisticated mathematics, astronomical observation, and the creation of enduring literature. Yet they also hint at unknown elements, forces, beings, or events that we can no longer fully interpret. The line between myth and memory blurs, leaving the modern observer in a space of wonder and uncertainty. As we examine these fragile pieces of clay, it is easy to imagine the scribes who etched them. Hands careful, minds immersed in both reverence and curiosity, seeking to preserve knowledge for future generations. They may have believed they were recording history, or communicating with the divine, or even encoding secrets meant only for those who could decipher them. Yet for us, thousands of years later, the tablets are as much a puzzle as a record, a testament to the depth of human imagination and the mysteries that endure across time. The Anunnaki tablets leave us with fundamental questions. Were they purely mythological creations, expressions of human belief and cultural memory? Or do they encode fragments of events, technologies, or knowledge we cannot yet comprehend? Are the beings described simply symbolic representations, or could they preserve memories of encounters lost to history? And if so, what else might lie hidden in the ruins of Mesopotamia, waiting to illuminate the shadowy boundary between legend and reality? Ultimately, these clay fragments offer no definitive answers. They are a bridge to a world long gone, a world of cities, rivers, and deserts, of humans striving to understand themselves and the cosmos around them. And while some mysteries of the Anunnaki may remain forever beyond reach, the tablets continue to inspire reflection, debate, and awe, reminding us that the earliest chapters of civilization were written not only in stone and clay, but in stories that still challenge our understanding of the past. As we leave the temples and ruins of ancient Mesopotamia behind, one cannot help but wonder, how many other voices, hidden in fragments of clay or stone, remain to be discovered? And what truths or enigmas might they reveal about the origins of humanity, the divine, and the enduring mysteries that have shaped our world? From the ancient clay of Mesopotamia, where the Anunnaki tablets hint at beings who shaped human destiny, we now travel westward across the Mediterranean Sea to the rugged coasts of Sardinia. Here, among sun-bleached cliffs and rolling pastures, lies a discovery that has puzzled archaeologists since its unearthing in the 1970s, the giants of Monte Prama. The site is situated near the town of Cabras, where a farmer's plow first struck the fragments of what would later be recognized as colossal stone statues. At first, the finds seemed merely curious, broken limbs, fragmented torsos, and scattered heads. But as excavations progressed, it became clear that these were no ordinary sculptures. Carved from local sandstone, the figures stand, or once stood, over 2 meters tall, representing warriors, archers, and boxers, each meticulously detailed in their stance, attire, and expression. Their sheer size, the skill required to craft them, and the deliberate placement in rows suggest that Monte Prama was a monumental statement of power, belief, or commemoration. The giants are attributed to the Nuragic civilization, a Bronze Age culture that thrived in Sardinia between the 18th and 8th centuries BCE. Little is known about this society. They left no written records, and their elaborate stone towers, the nurags, remain enigmatic in both function and symbolism. Yet the statues of Monte Prama offer a glimpse of their artistry, ideology, and possibly even their mythology. Each figure bears distinct features: broad shoulders, detailed belts, and weapons. Yet there is a uniformity that suggests ritualistic or symbolic purpose rather than mere portraiture. What makes these statues so mysterious is not only their craftsmanship, but their context. The giants were deliberately buried, broken, and scattered, possibly as part of a ritual or act of conquest. Some scholars argue that they were destroyed during violent upheavals, perhaps by invading forces who sought to erase the symbols of Nuragic power. Others propose that the burial was ceremonial, a way of retiring the statues while preserving their sacred presence. The truth remains uncertain, hidden beneath centuries of soil, time, and speculation. The artistic sophistication of the giants is striking. Despite their size and the hardness of the stone, the sculptors achieved remarkable detail in facial features, musculature, and weaponry. Could such precision suggest a more complex knowledge of engineering and anatomy than we have previously attributed to Bronze Age Sardinia? And why, in a society largely absent from the written record, would such monumental art be created? An art that communicates so powerfully across millennia? The poses and attire of the giants raise further questions. Many hold circular shields, swords, or spears. Some appear to wear armor, while others are marked as boxers, with gloves depicted in stone. Were these figures meant to honor legendary warriors, serve as guardians, or embody archetypes of heroism and power? Their placement in strict alignments hints at deliberate planning, perhaps reflecting cosmological ideas, social hierarchy, or even lost mythologies. Yet without contemporary texts, we can only infer their significance, leaving the meaning tantalizingly elusive. Some scholars have drawn comparisons to other Mediterranean and Near Eastern cultures. Could the Nuragic people have been influenced by foreign traditions, or were they entirely unique in their approach to monumental sculpture? The similarity of certain features to Greek and Phoenician art has led to debates about early cultural exchange in the region, yet the giants remain distinctly Sardinian, their style unreplicated elsewhere. This singularity deepens the mystery. Why did such a remarkable form of expression emerge here, and why did it disappear, leaving no direct successors? Speculative theories abound, as they often do with objects that defy easy explanation. Some propose that the giants may represent an idealized race of ancient heroes, or beings of extraordinary stature, preserved in memory through stone. Others suggest that their creation may have served a ritualistic purpose linked to fertility, protection, or even celestial observation, while mainstream archaeology emphasizes their connection to the Nuragic social and religious structure. The lack of written records leaves ample space for questions that may never be fully answered. The discovery process itself adds to the aura of mystery. Fragments of the statues lay buried for centuries, unnoticed beneath farmland until accidental exposure revealed them. Over decades, careful excavation has reconstructed only parts of the original display. Archaeologists continue to piece together the arrangement and scale of the site, but every new fragment seems to raise more questions than it answers. How many statues originally stood here? How were they positioned, and what story did their collective presence tell? Monte Prama's landscape intensifies the sense of wonder. The site overlooks plains and marshes, a strategic vantage point that may have held symbolic or practical significance. Did the placement of the statues correspond to sacred or astronomical sites? Were they intended to dominate the surrounding landscape, to convey authority, or to bridge the mortal and spiritual realms? Their silent, immobile gaze challenges us to imagine the world in which they stood, one of Bronze Age communities, ritual practice, and human ambition reaching into stone. As with many ancient mysteries, the giants of Monte Prama teach us about both human achievement and the limits of our understanding. We marvel at the skill and intention of the sculptors, yet we remain ignorant of their exact purpose. Did they commemorate specific individuals, celebrate martial prowess, or encode deeper mythological knowledge? And if such monumental craftsmanship could be lost so thoroughly to history, what else might lie hidden beneath the soil of Sardinia, or the world, awaiting rediscovery? In standing among the scattered remnants of Monte Prama today, one cannot help but feel the presence of those long-dead creators and subjects. The stone figures, though broken and buried, still radiate an aura of power, of narrative, and of human ambition reaching across time. They challenge us to consider the unseen dimensions of ancient societies, the beliefs, fears, and aspirations that motivated people to carve their ideas into unyielding stone. The giants are, in the end, both known and unknown. We recognize their craftsmanship, their size, and their cultural context. Yet the fullness of their meaning remains elusive. Who were they meant to honor? What rituals surrounded their creation and burial? And why did this extraordinary expression of human skill vanish, leaving only fragments behind? Monte Prama is a reminder that history is often incomplete, and that human imagination, ingenuity, and memory can be preserved in unexpected ways. The giants speak not with words, but through their very presence, inviting reflection on the cultures that came before us and the mysteries that persist. And as we move forward in our journey through the world's most enduring archaeological enigmas, one question lingers. What other civilizations, stories, and monumental creations remain hidden, waiting silently beneath the earth for the light of discovery? From the stone giants of Monte Prama, whose silent gazes speak across millennia, we now journey eastward into the heart of the Balkans, to the rolling plains of modern-day Romania. It is here, near the village of Tărtăria, that one of the most enigmatic artifacts of European prehistory was discovered: the Tărtăria Tablets. These small, unassuming clay objects have sparked debate since their discovery in 1961, tantalizing archaeologists and historians with the possibility that they represent the earliest known writing in human history. The site itself is modest, a Neolithic settlement layered with traces of the Vinca culture, which flourished in southeastern Europe between 5,500 and 5,900, 4,500 BCE. Yet within its soil, a remarkable discovery awaited. 3 small clay tablets, each engraved with lines and symbols that defy easy interpretation. Their inscriptions are composed of geometric shapes, lines, and motifs that some scholars argue resemble early proto-writing, predating the cuneiform of Mesopotamia by centuries. The very idea that these symbols might constitute writing challenges long-held assumptions about the origins of literacy. The tablets are fragile, etched with care, and carefully baked to preserve the markings. Some symbols appear repeated, suggesting a system of notation rather than mere decoration. Others are more abstract, resembling crosses, circles, or angular motifs. Scholars have long debated their meaning. Are they simple tally marks, ritual symbols, or evidence of a fully developed writing system? The answers remain elusive. What makes the Tărtăria tablets especially intriguing is their cultural context. They were found alongside small clay figurines, evidence of ritual practice, and traces of settlements suggesting a complex and socially organized community. The Vinca culture, once thought peripheral to the great civilizations of the Near East, reveals through these tablets a surprising sophistication. Could this small settlement have harbored the first sparks of written communication, independently developing a symbolic system that rivaled the earliest scripts of Sumer? The debate over their authenticity and significance has persisted for decades. Skeptics question whether the tablets were truly Neolithic, citing the possibility of later intrusion or misdating. Radiocarbon analysis places the site firmly in the Vinca period, yet questions linger. If genuine, the tablets challenge conventional narratives. They suggest that writing may have arisen in multiple locations independently, rather than exclusively in Mesopotamia or Egypt. This notion reshapes our understanding of early human cognition and cultural evolution. The symbols themselves are tantalizingly enigmatic. Some researchers have attempted to draw connections between the Tărtăria signs and later scripts, including Sumerian proto-cuneiform or even the Vinca symbols found across the Balkans. Could these markings represent an early attempt at recording religious practice, property, or astronomical observations? Or are they purely ritualistic, designed to convey spiritual or symbolic meaning to those who understood their code? The lack of context leaves each interpretation provisional, speculative, yet endlessly fascinating. Beyond their potential as writing, the tablets hint at a society with deep spiritual and social complexity. The accompanying ritual objects suggest that the Tărtăria people practiced ceremonies or rites whose meaning is lost to us. Were the tablets used in initiation rituals, offerings to deities, or as records of ancestral knowledge? Their small size suggests portability, perhaps intended for individual use or private ceremonies. Yet the precision of the inscriptions implies that they carried meaning intended to endure, a record meant to survive beyond the immediate moment. Some fringe theories elevate the mystery further. A few researchers have suggested that the symbols encode cosmological or astronomical knowledge, that they are a form of proto-science hidden within ritual. Others propose that the Tărtăria Tablets are evidence of contact, direct or indirect, with civilizations of the Near East, hinting at cultural exchanges that predate known trade networks. Mainstream archaeology remains cautious, emphasizing local development within the Vinca culture. Yet the questions persist, unresolved and compelling. The discovery of these tablets also raises broader questions about human innovation. If the Tărtăria symbols constitute writing, even in nascent form, what does that imply about Neolithic Europe? How advanced were these communities in their conceptual understanding of symbols, communication, and memory? Were the Vinca people aware of the power of recording information in ways that could transcend generations? And if so, why did this early script not survive, leaving no direct lineage to later European writing systems? Even the physical nature of the tablets contributes to their aura of mystery. Small, easily handled, their surfaces are worn yet resilient, bearing marks that time has both preserved and obscured. One can almost imagine the hands that pressed these symbols into clay, the care and intention behind each line and curve. Were these gestures of devotion, communication, or record-keeping? And what thoughts, fears, or aspirations accompanied each engraving? As with so many archaeological enigmas, the Tărtăria Tablets leave us with more questions than answers. They invite us to imagine a world in which humans, isolated from the great river civilizations of the Near East, were independently inventing systems of symbols, exploring abstract thought, and experimenting with the earliest forms of literacy. And yet, centuries later, the meaning of their work remains obscured, a faint whisper of intelligence and creativity that reached out across millennia only partially understood. The Vinca people, like the sculptors of Monte Prama or the creators of the Anunnaki tablets, leave traces that challenge our understanding of the past. They remind us that human ingenuity does not arise solely in the centers of empires, but often in small, overlooked communities whose discoveries are lost, hidden, or forgotten until chance reveals them. Standing before the Tărtăria Tablets today, whether in person or through photographs and reproductions, one is struck by their delicate yet powerful presence. They are tangible evidence of the human desire to communicate, to record, to make sense of the world. Yet their meaning remains just beyond reach, as tantalizingly elusive as the distant societies who created them. And so, like the giants of Monte Prama and the Anunnaki tablets before them, the Tărtăria Tablets challenge us to confront the limits of our knowledge. What stories were they meant to tell? What knowledge, beliefs, or events were encoded within their fragile clay surfaces? And how many other early attempts at writing, ritual, or record-keeping remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting for discovery, interpretation, and perhaps understanding? In the quiet of their preservation, the tablets continue to speak, silently, enigmatically, insistently. They remind us that the past is never fully closed, that human curiosity and creativity have long left traces that we are only beginning to read. And they leave us with a question that lingers as we continue our exploration of the world's most enduring archaeological mysteries. What else lies hidden, waiting to reveal the extraordinary complexity of our ancestors' minds? From the clay inscriptions of Tărtăria, where small marks hint at the earliest stirrings of human writing, our journey now moves eastward once more, this time across continents to the fertile lands of the Sichuan Basin in China. Here, buried beneath layers of silt and history, lies one of the most astonishing and enigmatic discoveries of the 20th century, the Sanxingdui Masks. The site of Sanxingdui, located near the modern city of Guanghan, first revealed its treasures in 1929, though large-scale excavations did not commence until the late 20th century. Farmers plowing fields stumbled upon jade fragments and strange bronzes, and archaeologists soon realized they had uncovered a civilization unlike any previously known in the region. Among the most striking artifacts are the massive bronze masks, some measuring over a meter in height, others with exaggerated features that defy conventional human proportions. These masks, with their wide eyes, flaring nostrils, and pronounced ears, evoke an otherworldly presence, suggesting a culture with an aesthetic and symbolic vision entirely their own. The masks are more than decorative or ceremonial objects. They are masterpieces of bronze casting, exhibiting extraordinary skill and sophistication. The artisans of Sanxingdui, who lived during the Shang Dynasty period, roughly 1600 to 1046 BCE, created these masks using techniques that demonstrate advanced knowledge of metallurgy, form, and proportion. The exaggerated features, large eyes that seem to peer into another realm, ears that might symbolize heightened perception, and faces both human and abstract, invite interpretation, but resist simple explanation. Were these masks used in ritual ceremonies, worn by priests or shamans to communicate with the divine? Or did they serve as offerings, designed to bridge the human and spiritual worlds? The context of their discovery adds another layer of intrigue. The masks were found in deep pits, deliberately buried alongside other ritual objects, including bronze trees, jade figurines, and gold foil. These sacrificial deposits suggest that the Sanxingdui civilization practiced elaborate rituals, yet the purpose and meaning of these ceremonies remain elusive. Why were such significant artifacts buried and left undisturbed for centuries? Was this an act of devotion, a means of safeguarding sacred items, or evidence of societal upheaval that led to the abandonment of their cities? What fascinates scholars and enthusiasts alike is how Sanxingdui challenges conventional narratives about early Chinese civilization. For decades, the Shang Dynasty in the Yellow River Valley was considered the sole cradle of early Chinese culture. Yet the discovery of Sanxingdui, with its distinct artistic style, technological expertise, and ritual practices, suggests the existence of a parallel cultural development in Sichuan. The masks, unlike anything seen in the Central Plains, seem to belong to a society that developed independently, with its own symbols, mythology, and worldview. Speculative interpretations abound. Some have suggested that the exaggerated eyes of the masks represent visions of the supernatural, perhaps intended to see into another realm or commune with spirits. Others see in the proportions a symbolic language, encoding cosmological knowledge, ancestral reverence, or social hierarchy. Could these masks represent deities, ancestors, or even mythological creatures? The absence of written records from the Sanxingdui culture leaves these questions unanswered, preserving an air of mystery that endures to this day. The scale of the masks adds to the enigmatic nature of the site. Unlike the small handheld ritual objects of other contemporary civilizations, these bronzes are monumental. Some stand over 2 meters tall, dwarfing any human figure. Creating such massive, detailed objects would have required not only technical skill, but also organized labor, planning, and a societal structure capable of supporting large-scale projects. What motivated such investment of resources into ritual art? What beliefs, fears, or aspirations compelled a society to dedicate so much effort to these enigmatic creations? Adding to the mystery is the sudden disappearance of the Sanxingdui civilization. Around 1200 BCE, for reasons that remain unknown, the sites appear to have been abandoned. Entire cities were left behind, monumental artifacts buried or concealed, and the cultural trajectory of this unique civilization abruptly halted. Did environmental change, flooding, or natural disaster drive the population away? Or were social or political upheavals responsible for this dramatic shift? The masks, buried in ceremonial pits, offer no explanation, only questions that echo across millennia. The artistry of the Sanxingdui Masks is both haunting and awe-inspiring. The wide, staring eyes seem to hold a gaze that transcends time, as if they are witnessing the observer as much as the observer witnesses them. The flaring nostrils and angular features evoke a sense of power, authority, and otherness. To stand before these bronzes is to confront a vision of humanity that is both familiar and alien, faces shaped by human hands, yet conveying a worldview that remains opaque. Researchers continue to debate the symbolism encoded in these objects. Were the masks intended to represent deities controlling natural forces or guardians of sacred spaces? Did they embody ancestral spirits, meant to protect the living or guide the deceased? Some have even speculated that they reflect encounters with otherworldly beings, interpretations inspired by the mask's otherworldly aesthetics. While mainstream archaeology emphasizes ritual and symbolic explanations grounded in the material and cultural context of Bronze Age China, the masks nevertheless challenge the limits of our understanding. The Sanxingdui Masks also invite reflection on the nature of cultural memory and preservation. Unlike written texts, which can be deciphered, these artifacts communicate through form, proportion, and presence. They convey meaning indirectly, leaving modern viewers to interpret gestures, expressions, and scale. This silent dialogue across thousands of years emphasizes both the ingenuity of the ancient creators and the elusiveness of their intentions. Standing before these monumental bronzes today, whether in situ or in museums, one is struck by their audacity and their beauty. The masks are at once expressions of human creativity and tangible reminders of a lost civilization, a society whose beliefs, rituals, and worldview have left few other traces. They evoke awe, curiosity, and a profound sense of temporal dislocation, a reminder that human history is more varied and mysterious than the fragments we have recovered might suggest. And so, as with the Tărtăria Tablets and the giants of Monte Prama, the Sanxingdui Masks leave us with questions rather than answers. What did these faces see? What ceremonies were conducted before them, and what role did they play in the spiritual or political life of their society? Why was such a sophisticated culture abandoned, leaving behind only enigmatic monuments to wonder at? The Sanxingdui Masks endure as portals into a past we can glimpse but not fully comprehend. They remind us that human imagination, skill, and ritual expression can reach heights that defy easy explanation, and that the archaeological record is often only a partial reflection of the complexity of ancient societies. And as we continue our journey through the world's unsolved archaeological mysteries, one question persists, compelling and unyielding. What other civilizations, stories, and visions remain hidden, waiting beneath layers of earth and time to challenge our understanding of humanity's past? From the gleaming bronzes of Sanxingdui, where masks gaze across millennia with an intensity that seems almost otherworldly, we now journey across oceans and continents to the arid lands of southwestern Peru. Here, amidst the dry valleys and rugged hills near the town of Ica, lie hundreds of enigmatic artifacts that have perplexed scholars, archaeologists, and collectors for decades. The Ica Stones. At first glance, the stones appear unremarkable, smooth, polished fragments of andesite, each roughly the size of a human hand, some larger, some smaller, their surfaces engraved with intricate images. Yet the scenes carved into these stones are anything but ordinary. They depict humans coexisting with dinosaurs, performing advanced surgical procedures, interacting with complex machinery, and even traveling into the skies. The precision and detail of these engravings challenge our expectations of what was known about prehistoric societies in South America and the limits of ancient imagination. The discovery of the Ica Stones is often traced back to the 1960s, when Dr. Javier Cabrera, a Peruvian physician, began collecting them from local farmers who claimed to have found the stones while plowing fields. Cabrera amassed thousands of these engraved artifacts over decades, documenting the carvings and studying their motifs. Some stones depict familiar animals like llamas and fish, while others present scenes that seem impossible. Humans riding dinosaurs, performing what appear to be brain surgeries with remarkable accuracy, or navigating machines that resemble spacecraft. The mainstream archaeological community has long approached the stones with skepticism. Many consider them modern forgeries, created for profit, amusement, or notoriety. Farmers were known to carve stones to sell to tourists, and inconsistencies in the patina and weathering of certain examples suggest a mix of ancient and more recent works. Yet even skeptics admit that some of the engravings exhibit remarkable detail and craftsmanship, raising questions about how and when they were created, and why such an unusual motif, particularly humans with dinosaurs, would arise at all. The engravings themselves are mesmerizing. Each scene is carved with attention to anatomy, posture, and interaction, suggesting that the artist, whether ancient or modern, possessed deep observational skill. The stones depict surgeries resembling trepanation, a procedure documented in ancient Andean societies. Yet some illustrations go beyond known historical practices, hinting at techniques and knowledge not yet explained. Others show humans navigating complex devices, raising questions about the origins of technological imagination in human history. Were these images intended as literal records, as mythological storytelling, or as a form of symbolic instruction? The stone's context adds to the intrigue. Many were found scattered across the desert valleys of Ica, in areas known to have been inhabited for thousands of years. The region is rich in pre-Columbian history, from the Nazca culture with its mysterious geoglyphs to earlier Andean settlements. Could the Ica stones represent a lost tradition of recording knowledge, scientific, spiritual, or historical, that has otherwise vanished from the archaeological record? Or are they a modern expression of curiosity, imagination, and storytelling, created in imitation of the region's ancient mystique? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Ica stones is their depiction of impossible chronology. Scenes of humans coexisting with dinosaurs contradict our current understanding of evolutionary history, provoking intense debate. Mainstream science views such depictions as anachronistic, reflecting modern myths rather than genuine historical memory. Yet the images endure, precise in detail, and appear repeatedly across multiple stones, suggesting either a persistent symbolic theme or a collective creative imagination, deliberately or unconsciously maintained. Beyond the question of their authenticity, the Ica stones compel us to consider the ways humans communicate knowledge, memory, and myth. Even if the engravings were created recently, they reflect cultural ideas, beliefs, and anxieties about the past, about science, and about humanity's place in the natural world. They invite reflection on the human desire to record, interpret, and imagine, not only what is known, but what might be possible. Speculative interpretations abound. Some enthusiasts suggest that the stones preserve a hidden history of human civilization, a narrative erased by cataclysm or time. Others propose that they encode lost technological knowledge or astronomical insights. While such claims remain unverified, the stones' enduring allure lies in their ability to challenge assumptions, spark curiosity, and provoke a sense of wonder. They are objects that straddle the line between myth and material reality, reminding us that the human imagination has always sought to reconcile the known with the unknown. The artistry of the stones is also noteworthy. The engravings vary in scale and complexity, yet all exhibit careful attention to composition and perspective. Some show entire scenes, with multiple figures interacting dynamically. Others focus on a single figure or creature, rendered with anatomical precision. Whether created by prehistoric hands or modern ones, the stones convey an awareness of form, motion, and narrative that is remarkable. They speak not only of technical skill, but of intention, the deliberate act of recording, communicating, or interpreting experience through durable material. The geographic and cultural context of Ica enhances the stone's mystery. The arid valleys and highlands preserve artifacts exceptionally well, yet the region has seen human habitation for millennia, from early hunter-gatherers to sophisticated agricultural societies. The stones, if authentic and ancient, would suggest a remarkable continuity of knowledge, observation, and artistry across vast spans of time. Even if modern, they demonstrate how contemporary people engage with the landscape, history, and myth of their homeland, creating objects that reflect both imagination and memory. The Ica stones challenge us to confront questions about evidence, interpretation, and belief. How do we determine authenticity when the material itself may be ambiguous? How do we reconcile detailed depictions of impossible scenarios with the archaeological record? And what does it mean when objects, whether ancient or modern, capture our imagination and push us to consider realities beyond conventional understanding? Holding one of these polished stones, feeling the grooves carved into its surface, it is easy to imagine the hands that made them, the minds that envisioned the scenes, and the stories or lessons that might have accompanied them. Were they meant to record history, convey ritual knowledge, or inspire contemplation? Or were they simply the product of artistic play, imagination, and curiosity, intended to provoke awe in those who encountered them? As with the Sanxingdui Masks, the Tărtăria Tablets, and the giants of Monte Prama, the Ica stones remind us of the enduring tension between certainty and mystery in archaeology. They compel us to ask questions not only about the past, but about the ways humans perceive, record, and reinterpret their world. They are objects that demand reflection, inviting us to consider the limits of knowledge and the persistence of wonder. And so, whether ancient or modern, the Ica stones endure as provocations, fragments of stone that whisper of forgotten worlds, unrecorded knowledge, and the vast possibilities of human creativity. They leave us with a lingering question. If such enigmas can exist on a scale and with a level of detail that challenges our understanding, how many other secrets lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered, reshaping our vision of humanity's past and the mysteries that still surround it? From the arid valleys of Ica, where engraved stones whisper of impossible histories and human imagination, our journey now carries us across continents and oceans to the misted uplands of Southeast Asia. Here, on the windswept plateaus of Laos, lies a landscape that has captivated explorers and archaeologists for over a century. The Plain of Jars. Stretching across hundreds of square kilometers in the Xiangkuang Plateau, the Plain of Jars is dotted with thousands of megalithic stone jars, some towering over 3 meters tall, others smaller, yet all enigmatic in form and purpose. From a distance, the jars appear as giant sentinels scattered across the rolling grasslands, their presence both imposing and strangely serene. Weathered by time and partially submerged in the earth, these monolithic vessels exude a quiet authority, suggesting that they were once central to the lives of the people who created them. But why, and for what purpose, remains a question that has puzzled scholars for decades. The jars themselves are carved from sandstone, granite, and conglomerate, some weighing several tons. Many are simple in form, cylindrical or slightly rounded, but others are elaborately fashioned with carved rims, spouts, or decorative motifs hinting at ritualistic significance. Their sheer scale and the effort required to transport and position them indicate a society capable of remarkable organization and engineering, yet no written records or inscriptions have been found to explain their purpose. Did these communities leave behind stories, knowledge, or traditions in other forms now lost to time? The earliest references to the jars date to the 1930s, when French explorers documented their existence during surveys of the plateau. Archaeologists have since identified over 90 jar sites, revealing clusters ranging from a handful of stones to hundreds arranged in seemingly deliberate patterns. Some jars are found upright, others toppled, and some broken into fragments, suggesting centuries of exposure to natural forces, human activity, or perhaps deliberate destruction. What was the original arrangement, and did it hold symbolic, ritualistic, or astronomical meaning? These questions remain tantalizingly unanswered. Excavations in the 1930s and later decades revealed additional artifacts near the jars, fragments of pottery, tools, and human remains. Some evidence points to their use as funerary sites, perhaps intended for burial, cremation, or the storage of human remains. Radiocarbon dating suggests that the jars may date as far back as 500 BCE to 500 CE, though estimates vary, reflecting the difficulty of dating stone directly. Could these vessels have been part of elaborate funerary rituals, serving as repositories for the dead before cremation or interment? Or might they have been used for ceremonial libations, offerings, or storage of sacred items? Some jars are carved with holes, spouts, or depressions, suggesting they might have held liquids or offerings. Others exhibit faint decorative motifs, simple lines, spirals, or geometric patterns that hint at symbolic meaning. Anthropologists speculate that these carvings reflect ritual or spiritual significance, yet without written records, any interpretation remains speculative. Did the jars themselves possess symbolic power, representing ancestors, deities, or territorial markers? Or were they functional objects, whose purpose has been forgotten as societies evolved and landscapes changed? The Plain of Jars is more than an archaeological site. It is a testament to human ingenuity and the persistence of mystery. Moving across the plateau today, one can almost imagine the ancient communities that shaped these stones, laboring to quarry massive boulders, transporting them across uneven terrain, and arranging them in patterns that conveyed meaning understood only to those within the culture. The jar's presence suggests a deep engagement with the land and with ritual practice, yet the precise intentions remain shrouded in time. Speculative theories abound, fueled by the jar's enigmatic form and scale. Some researchers propose that the jars were part of elaborate mortuary practices, holding cremated remains or serving as temporary tombs. Others suggest that they functioned as water reservoirs or storage vessels for grain, though the weight and placement of many jars make purely utilitarian explanations difficult to reconcile with the effort required to construct them. A few more adventurous interpretations speculate on astronomical alignments, connections to celestial phenomena, or even links to spiritual cosmologies that have vanished from the historical record. Each theory carries a measure of plausibility, yet none can fully account for the scope, distribution, and craftsmanship of the jars. The human stories embedded in the landscape are further complicated by modern history. The Shangquang Plateau was heavily bombed during the Vietnam War era, leaving unexploded ordnance scattered across the area. Archaeologists must tread carefully, excavating cautiously amid these hazards, And yet the jars endure, resilient monuments that outlast human conflict and continue to inspire awe. Their survival through natural erosion, warfare, and centuries of human activity speaks to their cultural significance and the profound connection their creators must have felt to the land and their rituals. Beyond function and form, the Plain of Jars challenges our understanding of prehistoric societies in Southeast Asia. The construction of such large-scale monuments implies social organization, coordination, and shared cultural or religious purpose. What cultural frameworks allowed communities to conceive of and execute these projects? What beliefs, myths, or spiritual concepts underpinned their creation? And if these jars were so central to ancient life, why did the traditions surrounding them vanish, leaving only these silent stone witnesses? The visual impact of the jars is striking. Spread across grassy slopes and mist-shrouded plateaus, they appear almost alien in scale and proportion, evoking both reverence and curiosity. To walk among them is to step into a landscape shaped by hands long gone, a landscape that invites reflection on mortality, memory, and human ambition. They are vessels of both stone and story, preserving fragments of a past that remains tantalizingly out of reach. Archaeologists continue to study the jars with painstaking care, employing modern technologies such as ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, and radiocarbon dating to unravel the mysteries of their construction and purpose. Yet every new discovery seems to generate more questions than answers. Why were the jars positioned as they were? What did the communities believe about life, death, and the spiritual world? And how much knowledge about these practices has been irretrievably lost, leaving only silent stone markers to speak across the centuries? The Plain of Jars reminds us that human history is not always linear, and that monumental effort does not guarantee preservation of knowledge. The jars endure as enigmatic markers of a vanished culture, their purpose lost, but their presence undeniable. They evoke a sense of wonder and humility, prompting reflection on the depth and diversity of human ritual, ingenuity, and expression. And so, as with the Ica Stones, Sanxingdui Masks, and Tărtăria Tablets, the jars leave us with a lingering sense of mystery. They invite us to imagine the lives, beliefs, and intentions of the people who shaped them, while reminding us that time preserves only fragments of human experience. How many other landscapes, settlements, or artifacts remain hidden, preserving stories that we are only beginning to glimpse? What rituals, technologies, or cosmologies of ancient societies remain buried, waiting to be discovered? The Plain of Jars is a place of silence, of monumental presence, and of unanswered questions. It challenges us to confront the limits of our knowledge, to embrace curiosity, and to recognize that some mysteries, like the jars themselves, resist closure. They endure as a testament to human creativity and the enigmatic, enduring spirit of civilizations long gone, whispering across the centuries to anyone willing to listen. From the windswept plateaus of Laos, where the massive jars whisper of vanished rituals and forgotten societies, our journey now turns westward across the Americas, to the tropical lowlands of Veracruz, Mexico. Here, buried beneath the fertile soil near the banks of the Santiago River, lies an artifact that has both fascinated and confounded archaeologists since its discovery in 1999, the Cascajal block. At first glance, it appears deceptively simple, a slab of serpentine, roughly the size of a small briefcase, its surface etched with a series of symbols arranged in horizontal rows. Yet these markings are unlike anything previously documented in Mesoamerican archaeology. Composed of 62 individual characters, many repeated, the inscriptions are thought to represent the earliest known writing system in the Americas, possibly dating to around 900 BCE. The block is smooth and polished, the carvings precise, suggesting intentionality and skill. Yet its purpose, meaning, and cultural context remain deeply mysterious. The Cascajal block was unearthed by chance during agricultural work, drawing the attention of archaeologists who immediately recognized its significance. Its discovery challenged long-standing assumptions about the Olmec civilization, which dominated the region between 1200 and 400 BCE. Often considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs are renowned for their colossal stone heads, jade figurines, and sophisticated artistic expression, yet they left no known written records. The Cascajal block, if authentic, could radically reshape our understanding of literacy, record-keeping, and communication in the ancient Americas. The symbols etched into the serpentine slab are enigmatic and precise. Some resemble abstract shapes, others appear to depict human faces, animals, or parts of plants. Many are repeated, suggesting a deliberate system rather than random decoration. Scholars have noted that the arrangement resembles early forms of writing found in other parts of the world. Patterns of repetition, alignment, and hierarchy hint at syntax, meaning, or categorization. Could this be an early record of trade, ritual, genealogy, or historical events? Or does it encode myth, cosmology, or spiritual knowledge now lost to time? The block's craftsmanship speaks to a society of considerable skill and sophistication. Carving such a hard stone with precision requires knowledge of tools, techniques, and patience. The effort invested in creating the slab suggests that it held significance far beyond the mundane. Unlike the monumental Olmec heads, which dominate the landscape and convey visual power, the Cascajal block is intimate in scale, yet profound in implication. Its small size belies its potential importance as a window into the cognitive and cultural world of an ancient civilization. Scholars continue to debate the authenticity and significance of the Cascajal block. Some critics argue that the context of its discovery, found in loose soil rather than a stratified archaeological layer, raises questions about provenance. Others accept the artifact as genuine, emphasizing the stylistic and material consistency with Olmec art and the sophistication of the carvings. Whether a preserved record or an isolated expression, the block challenges assumptions about when and how writing emerged in the Americas, forcing reconsideration of timelines, cultural exchange, and the development of symbolic thought. One of the most intriguing aspects of the block is the suggestion that it represents an early, fully developed writing system rather than a simple proto-script. The repetition and variation of symbols imply a structured method of communication, potentially encoding meaning in a way comparable to cuneiform in Mesopotamia or hieroglyphs in Egypt. Could the Olmecs have independently developed a writing system centuries before the Maya codices, which are traditionally considered the earliest examples of American writing? If so, what does this tell us about the cognitive and cultural complexity of early Mesoamerican societies? Beyond the symbols themselves, the cultural context of the Cascajal block remains opaque. The Olmecs left behind monumental stone heads, altars, and ceremonial centers. Yet the day-to-day life, beliefs, and organizational structures of their society are only partially understood. Was the block a tool for administration, a record of sacred knowledge, or a ceremonial object designed to communicate with the spiritual realm? Did it mark significant events, codify laws, or convey cosmological concepts to the initiated? Each possibility carries profound implications for understanding the Olmec's place in human history. Speculative theories have proliferated alongside mainstream research. Some enthusiasts propose that the symbols encode astronomical knowledge, linking the Olmecs to complex observations of celestial cycles. Others suggest that the carvings might be genealogical records, chronicling lineages of rulers or priests. More imaginative interpretations posit that the block represents contact with external civilizations, although there is no direct evidence for such interaction. Regardless of the theory, the artifact's existence continues to inspire debate, curiosity, and careful analysis. The Cascajal block also invites reflection on the nature of literacy itself. Writing in any form is a tool for preserving memory, transmitting knowledge, and structuring thought. For the Olmecs to have developed such a system implies an intellectual and cultural sophistication that extends beyond art and ritual. It suggests a society capable of abstract reasoning, record-keeping, and symbolic communication at a level rarely associated with cultures of this period. And yet, unlike cuneiform or hieroglyphics, the block remains isolated, a solitary testament to an unrecorded tradition. Why did this early system of writing not survive or propagate more widely? What social, political, or environmental factors led to its disappearance? The physical presence of the block is arresting. Holding or viewing the polished serpentine, one can almost sense the intent behind each incision, the careful thought that guided each line and symbol. It is a silent message, encoded in stone, speaking across centuries to anyone willing to look closely. Its surface preserves not only the marks of the chisel, but the presence of the ancient mind that conceived it. The hand, the eye, and the intention of a culture whose voice is otherwise muted in history. The Cascajal block stands as a reminder that human history is far richer and more intricate than surviving records alone can convey. Each symbol, carefully inscribed, is a window into a society that grappled with ideas, structured communication, and the desire to record its world. The block provokes both awe and humility, as it demonstrates that the ingenuity and creativity of ancient peoples often outstrip our assumptions about their capabilities. And so, like the Plain of Jars, the Ica Stones, and the Sanxingdui Masks, the Cascajal block leaves us with profound questions. What stories were inscribed upon it, and for whom? How many other early forms of writing, hidden or destroyed, lie buried beneath Mesoamerican soil, waiting to reveal the sophistication of civilizations that have been lost to time? And what can a single artifact, polished and silent, teach us about the ingenuity, imagination, and complexity of human cultures that flourished long before our modern gaze arrived? The block is at once a message, a puzzle, and a testament. It invites us to wonder, to investigate, and to acknowledge the limits of what we know about the dawn of writing and the intellectual capacities of early societies. It challenges us to consider that even the smallest stone can carry extraordinary significance, and that the past, like the inscriptions on its surface, remains open to interpretation, discovery, and reverent curiosity. From the sun-baked plains of Veracruz, where the Cascajal block whispers of lost writing and ancient intelligence, our journey now moves across continents and seas to the rugged hills of southern Greece. Here, amidst the golden hills of Mycenae, lies an artifact that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts for more than a century: the Mask of Agamemnon. Discovered in 1876 by the pioneering archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, the mask was unearthed in a burial shaft known as Grave 5, part of a series of shaft graves at Mycenae dating to roughly 1550 to 1500 BCE. Crafted from beaten gold, the mask is exquisitely detailed, capturing the contours of a human face with remarkable realism. Closed eyes, a serene expression, and the subtle lines of age and character preserved in molten metal. Schliemann, captivated by Homeric epic and legend, believed he had uncovered the very visage of Agamemnon, the fabled king of the Trojan War. But the mask's true identity and the culture that created it remains shrouded in mystery. The mask is small yet striking, designed to cover the face of the deceased, preserving the individual's visage for eternity. Its craftsmanship suggests extraordinary skill in metalworking, with delicate features hammered from a single sheet of gold. The artistry is both intimate and monumental. It conveys a sense of the individual, a life once lived, while simultaneously asserting the ritual and ceremonial significance of death in Mycenaean society. What compelled the Mycenaeans to create such objects? Was it purely a means of honoring the dead? Or did they serve a more complex spiritual purpose, a bridge between the mortal world and the divine? The discovery of the mask was as dramatic as its appearance. Schliemann, inspired by Homeric legend, excavated Mycenae with both zeal and controversy, uncovering graves that contained not only gold masks but also weapons, jewelry, and ceremonial vessels. Grave 5, the site of the Mask of Agamemnon, is among the richest, filled with artifacts that reflect a society of considerable power, wealth, and artistic sophistication. Yet the mask itself has become emblematic, capturing the imagination of the modern world as a tangible link to the legends of the Iliad. Scholars have long debated the mask's date and attribution. Radiocarbon dating and stratigraphic analysis suggest that the mask predates the events traditionally associated with Homeric legend by several centuries. Some argue that Schliemann's identification with Agamemnon was motivated more by romantic imagination than historical evidence. Yet, even if the mask does not belong to the legendary king, it remains a testament to Mycenaean culture, a civilization that, at the height of the 2nd millennium BCE, demonstrated extraordinary artistry, ritual practice, and social organization. The mask's features themselves are arresting. The eyes are closed in a tranquil repose, the mouth slightly downturned, as if capturing both the dignity and the inevitability of death. It is a human face rendered in eternal gold, a delicate balance between the natural and the divine. How did Mycenaean artisans achieve such realism with the tools and techniques of their time? What cultural beliefs about death, the afterlife, and the sanctity of the individual informed this creation? And why is it that, while so much of the Mycenaean civilization has been unearthed, the deeper meanings and practices surrounding such masks remain elusive? Speculative theories have surrounded the Mask of Agamemnon since its discovery. Some propose that the mask represents not a specific individual, but an idealized image of rulership, a symbolic face intended to convey power, authority, and divine sanction. Others suggest it may have been part of a broader funerary tradition, one in which masks played a role in ancestor veneration, ritual identification, or spiritual transformation. Could these masks have allowed the deceased to retain a recognizable identity in the afterlife? Or were they meant to project social status, communicating to the living the prestige of the family or community? The context of Mycenaean graves adds further intrigue. Shaft graves like those at Grave 5 were elaborate constructions, often lined with stone, containing multiple bodies and accompanied by rich assemblages of goods. This suggests a highly stratified society with complex social hierarchies. Yet the rituals that accompanied death, the symbolic logic of burial arrangements, and the precise meanings of objects like the gold masks remain speculative. Each mask, each artifact, is a puzzle piece in a larger mosaic of Mycenaean belief and cultural expression, one that invites interpretation, contemplation, and imagination. The Mask of Agamemnon also provokes questions about the intersection of history and myth. Schliemann's identification linked the artifact to the epic narrative of the Iliad, inspiring generations to view it as a literal relic of legendary events. Modern scholarship, while more cautious, acknowledges the power of such associations. Even if the mask does not belong to Agamemnon himself, it embodies the fusion of artistry, ritual, and memory that allows legends to endure. It reminds us that the material culture of ancient civilizations can shape our understanding of history, belief, and identity in profound ways. Beyond its symbolic significance, the mask offers insight into Mycenaean technology and craft. The technique of repousse, hammering gold from the reverse side to create detailed relief, is executed with precision and sensitivity. The artisans understood the material intimately, manipulating it to convey softness and texture in a metal that is otherwise rigid. Each line, contour, and curve reflects intention, skill, and observation. How did knowledge of such techniques develop, and what social or ritual systems supported the creation of these objects? What networks of artisans, patrons, and ritual specialists were necessary to produce even a single mask? Standing before the Mask of Agamemnon, one is struck by its combination of intimacy and monumentality. Though small enough to hold in a human hand, it conveys a presence that transcends scale. It evokes the individual life it represents, yet also gestures toward larger societal structures, cultural values, and beliefs about mortality and memory. It is both personal and communal, functional and symbolic, a relic that preserves the intersection of human experience and ritual imagination. Like the Cascajal block and the Plain of Jars, the Mask of Agamemnon invites reflection on what has been lost, what has been preserved, and what remains unknown. It challenges us to consider the motives and intentions of ancient peoples, to explore the ways they honored the dead, recorded memory, and expressed identity. And perhaps most compellingly, it reminds us that even the most striking artifacts are only fragments of broader cultural systems, whose full complexity may never be entirely revealed. In the quiet of Mycenae's hills, the gold mask endures as a silent witness to history, craft, and human aspiration. It invites us to wonder about the lives of those who created it, the ceremonies it participated in, and the beliefs it embodied. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most enduring archaeological mysteries, one question lingers. What other stories lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to reveal the ingenuity, spirituality, and complexity of civilizations that have shaped human history, yet remain just beyond our full understanding? From the golden hills of Mycenae, where the serene visage of the Mask of Agamemnon gazes across millennia, our journey now moves to the cradle of civilization itself, the ancient plains of southern Mesopotamia. Here, amid the shifting sands of modern-day Iraq, stands a monument to human ambition, ritual, and ingenuity, the Ziggurat of Ur. Rising in stepped terraces from the flat alluvial plain, the ziggurat is a structure that commands attention even in its ruined state. Once towering perhaps over 30 meters high, its massive mud brick terraces and broad stairways were designed to be visible for miles, a tangible expression of power and devotion. Constructed around the 21st century BCE under the reign of Ur-Nammu, ruler of the third dynasty of Ur, this monumental temple complex was dedicated to the moon god Nana, the patron deity of the city. The ziggurat's scale and sophistication reveal not only architectural skill, but also the organizational power of the society that built it, a civilization capable of mobilizing labor, resources, and knowledge to create enduring monuments. What strikes the observer first is its geometry. The broad, tiered steps ascend in regular layers, leading toward a temple platform at the summit. Even now, the erosion of centuries cannot entirely diminish the visual impact. The structure is both imposing and enigmatic. It is not merely a building. It is a vertical statement, a symbolic bridge between earth and sky, humanity and the divine. Why did the Sumerians devote such immense effort to this form of architecture? Was it purely functional, serving ritual purposes, or did its very design hold symbolic meaning, encoding cosmological, spiritual, or social principles? Excavations at Ur have revealed that the ziggurat was more than a temple. It formed the nucleus of a ceremonial and administrative complex, surrounded by shrines, storerooms, and possibly royal residences. The outer layers were constructed of mud bricks, while the inner core contained fired bricks for stability. an architectural solution that testifies to advanced engineering knowledge for its time. Such meticulous construction suggests a civilization deeply invested in the intersection of ritual and urban planning. Yet, the ziggurat remains enigmatic in its ultimate purpose. What rituals were conducted at its summit? What mysteries of Sumerian spirituality and cosmology were enacted within its terraces and chambers? The symbolic meaning of the ziggurat is as compelling as its physical presence. Sumerians believed that these stepped structures connected the heavens and the earth, serving as a conduit between gods and mortals. Pilgrims, priests, and rulers may have ascended the terraces in ceremonial procession, each step a ritualized journey toward divine communion. Yet the details remain largely speculative, as Sumerian records, while abundant in administrative and religious texts, provide only fragmented glimpses into the practices surrounding these monumental edifices. How did those who built and used the ziggurat perceive their world? What spiritual experiences were intended, and how did architecture itself facilitate a sense of transcendence? Beyond its ritual significance, the Ziggurat of Ur demonstrates technological mastery. The coordination required to quarry, transport, and assemble hundreds of thousands of bricks is staggering. Water management, planning for weight distribution, and resilience against seasonal flooding all point to a sophisticated understanding of engineering and urban design. How much of this knowledge was codified, and how much depended on the intuition and experience of master builders? Could some methods have been lost over centuries, leaving us with only the tangible remnants of a genius we can admire but not fully comprehend? The site also invites speculation about social and political organization. A structure of this magnitude required labor, oversight, and coordination on a scale difficult to imagine. Did the construction of the ziggurat reflect centralized royal authority, a communal religious effort, or a combination of both? Was it a tool of political legitimacy, asserting the ruler's power while simultaneously serving the gods? And if so, how did this dual purpose shape the daily lives and beliefs of the people who lived in the shadow of its terraces? Despite centuries of study, the ziggurat retains aspects of mystery. Its upper temple, where the gods were said to dwell, has not survived. We cannot observe the sacred space as it was experienced by ancient worshippers. Artifacts recovered around the base, votive offerings, tablets, and ceremonial objects provide tantalizing clues, yet their interpretation remains incomplete. Some scholars propose that astronomical alignments or symbolic numbers were incorporated into its design, connecting the ziggurat to celestial cycles. Others argue that its sheer scale and visibility were intended to impress both the local populace and rival polities. Perhaps the answer lies in a combination of both, reflecting a society where ritual, power, and cosmology were inseparable. The aesthetic and emotional power of the Ziggurat of Ur is undeniable. Standing amidst the ruins, one senses the ambition, devotion, and human ingenuity required to create such a structure. It is a monument to collective effort, faith, and imagination, a testament to a civilization that sought to define its place in the universe through stone and brick. The structure's longevity, surviving floods, centuries of occupation, and the ravages of time, underscores the enduring impact of human aspiration. The ziggurat also serves as a reminder of the limits of archaeological knowledge. While we can reconstruct its form, measure its dimensions, and analyze its materials, the lived experience of those who built it, worshipped upon it, and understood its sacred significance remains largely inaccessible. How did ascending those terraces feel to a priest or ruler? What prayers were whispered at the summit, and what visions inspired the builders to construct such a massive bridge between earth and heaven? These questions linger, reminding us that monuments can preserve form and scale even as the deeper meanings fade. Like the Mask of Agamemnon and the Cascajal block, The Ziggurat of Ur illustrates the profound gap between what is preserved and what is lost to history. It is a structure of both material and symbolic significance, reflecting technological mastery, religious devotion, and political authority, yet it retains an aura of mystery. What secrets of Sumerian belief, cosmology, and society remain hidden beneath the terraces and within the surrounding city? How much knowledge, ritual, or tradition has vanished with the sands of time? The Ziggurat of Ur endures as a silent witness to human ambition and spiritual aspiration. Its terraces rise from the plain like a stone ladder to the heavens, inviting reflection, contemplation, and wonder. As we continue our exploration of the world's most enduring archaeological mysteries, the Ziggurat reminds us that human civilizations have always sought to connect with forces beyond themselves, to mark their presence on the earth, and to reach toward the divine. And yet, for all its scale and sophistication, it still guards its secrets, whispering across millennia and compelling us to ask, what other truths, lost practices, and hidden knowledge lie buried beneath the sands of ancient cities, waiting for those who seek to understand the full breadth of human history? From the monumental terraces of Ur, where mud bricks rise like a ladder to the heavens and echo with the prayers of Sumerian priests, our journey now travels across oceans and continents, high into the windswept Altiplano of Bolivia. Here, at 3,800 meters above sea level, lies the ancient city of Tiwanaku, a place of enigmatic architecture, spiritual power, and enduring mystery. Among its many remarkable structures, one stands apart for its artistry, symbolism, and the questions it continues to provoke: the Gate of the Sun. Rising from the plains near the southern shores of Lake Titicaca, the Gate of the Sun is a single, monumental stone arch, intricately carved from a single block of andesite. It towers over 2 meters high and nearly 4 meters wide, its surface covered with a dense array of geometric motifs, anthropomorphic figures, and symbols that seem to pulse with meaning long lost to time. From the moment one gazes upon its weathered yet commanding presence, the stone asserts both mystery and authority, inviting contemplation of the people who shaped it, the beliefs they held, and the knowledge they sought to preserve. The Gate of the Sun is widely believed to have been created around 500 to 700 CE, during the peak of Tiwanaku's influence. The civilization that built it flourished in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, developing advanced agricultural techniques, monumental architecture, and a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Yet, while much of Tiwanaku's society has been reconstructed from ruins and artifacts, the gate's precise purpose remains elusive. Was it a ceremonial portal, a solar calendar, or a symbolic threshold between worlds? Scholars have proposed myriad interpretations, each offering insight while simultaneously deepening the enigma. At the center of the gate's elaborate carvings stands a figure known as the Staff God, an image revered in Andean iconography and believed to represent a deity associated with fertility, agriculture, and cosmic order. The staff god holds a staff in each hand, and surrounding him are 48 smaller figures arranged in symmetrical patterns. Some appear to be in motion, some in ritual gesture, while others seem to be aligned according to astronomical principles. The precision of the carvings, combined with their symbolic density, suggests that the gate was not merely decorative but served as a repository of knowledge, codifying spiritual, cosmological, and social concepts in stone. The sheer technical mastery required to quarry, transport, and carve such a massive block from local andesite is staggering. The Altiplano is a harsh environment with high winds, low oxygen, and temperatures that fluctuate dramatically between day and night. To imagine the labor, skill, and ingenuity required to construct the gate and the broader ceremonial complex of Tiwanaku is to confront a civilization whose understanding of material, technique, and space remains awe-inspiring. How did the Tiwanakuans move such enormous stones with limited tools? What guided their precise alignment and orientation? And what knowledge has been lost with the fall of their city? The gate's orientation and carvings suggest a profound connection to the cosmos. Some researchers argue that it functioned as a solar calendar, its symbols encoding solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events that guided agricultural and ritual cycles. Others emphasize the iconography as a symbolic representation of duality: life and death, sun and moon, earth and sky. The repeated motifs, the symmetrical arrangement of figures, and the subtle alignment with the surrounding landscape indicate a sophisticated awareness of both natural and spiritual order. Could the gate have been a place where priests, astronomers, and rulers convened to interpret celestial patterns and divine guidance? Or was its symbolism more esoteric, accessible only to an elite few who understood its sacred language? Despite centuries of study, the Gate of the Sun retains aspects of profound mystery. The meaning of many carvings remains undeciphered. Some scholars suggest they encode mythological narratives, while others propose they represent a lost form of proto-writing. The surrounding city, once a hub of religious, administrative, and cultural activity, is only partially understood, and the collapse of Tiwanaku leaves gaps that may never be fully reconstructed. Why was the gate built in its precise location? What rituals unfolded in front of it, and how did it shape the collective consciousness of those who approached it? The gate's symbolism also invites speculation about Tiwanaku's influence beyond the Altiplano. Its iconography appears to have resonated with later Andean civilizations, from the Wari to the Inca, suggesting that its imagery, ritual, and perhaps its cosmology persisted in cultural memory long after the city itself declined. Some researchers argue that the staff god's depiction foreshadows motifs found in Incan temples, textiles, and metalwork, hinting at an intellectual and spiritual legacy that stretches across centuries and landscapes. How much of Tiwanaku's knowledge, encoded in stone, survived through memory, imitation, or adaptation? And what truths about the civilization remain inaccessible, buried beneath layers of history and earth? The Gate of the Sun is not only a technical and symbolic marvel, it is also a sight that evokes wonder through its sheer presence. Standing before the massive arch, one can feel the altitude, the wind, and the echoes of centuries of human endeavor. The stones radiate both permanence and vulnerability, having withstood earthquakes, erosion, and human activity, yet continuing to whisper their secrets to those who approach with curiosity and care. The monument is a silent witness to a civilization that sought to understand its world, communicate with the divine, and leave a record of its values for eternity. Speculative interpretations have flourished alongside academic study. Some enthusiasts suggest that the gate encodes advanced astronomical or calendrical knowledge, possibly revealing insights into solar and lunar cycles that guided Tiwanaku society. Others propose connections to shamanic practices, cosmological journeys, or spiritual initiation rites, in which the gate functioned as a threshold between the mundane and the sacred. Even if these interpretations remain unproven, the gate's design, placement, and iconography compel us to ask questions about the depth and sophistication of Andean thought and about the cultural imagination that produced such enduring stone monuments. Like the Ziggurat of Ur, the Mask of Agamemnon, and the Cascajal block, the Gate of the Sun reminds us that human ambition, ingenuity, and spiritual imagination can create objects that survive millennia while still guarding their secrets. It challenges modern observers to reconcile what we can measure, describe, and analyze with what we cannot. Those lived experiences, beliefs, and rituals that have vanished alongside the city itself. How did the people of Tiwanaku perceive their universe? What knowledge, encoded in stone and ritual, has been irretrievably lost? And how much of human history remains hidden, waiting for rediscovery in landscapes that continue to hold the echoes of ancient minds? The Gate of the Sun endures as both a monument and a question. Its carvings, weathered yet precise, invite us to ponder the intellectual, spiritual, and technical achievements of a civilization that thrived in one of the world's most challenging environments. It stands as a threshold not only between past and present, but also between comprehension and wonder, encouraging reflection on the mysteries that remain embedded in human history. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most enigmatic archaeological sites, the Gate of the Sun reminds us that for every stone uncovered, every monument studied, there remains a deeper story, an invitation to ask, to imagine, and to wonder what still lies hidden, waiting for those willing to look and listen. From the windswept Altiplano of Tiwanaku, where the Gate of the Sun rises like a stone sentinel to the heavens, our journey now turns to the quiet, dimly lit chambers of European libraries, where one of the most perplexing artifacts of human creativity and secrecy waits in patient silence, the Voynich Manuscript. Unlike monumental stone structures that dominate the landscape, this artifact is intimate, portable, and deceptively fragile. A small codex of vellum, bound yet unassuming, yet it has baffled scholars, linguists, and cryptographers for over a century. The manuscript, named after the rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1912, is composed of approximately 240 pages, each densely filled with flowing script, enigmatic diagrams, and illustrations of plants, astrological symbols, and figures engaged in curious activities. The language, so far undeciphered, consists of unique glyphs, arranged in a rhythm that suggests syntax, grammar, and intentionality. The plants depicted are largely unrecognizable to botanists, yet they are drawn with precision and care, suggesting observation by someone with knowledge of flora, real or imagined. It is as though the manuscript exists in a parallel botanical and linguistic universe, one whose logic is opaque to every modern observer. Radiocarbon dating places the creation of the manuscript in the early 15th century, during the late medieval period, a time of profound scientific, artistic, and esoteric exploration. Its origin remains unclear. Some speculate northern Italy, others propose Central Europe. Who created it, and for what purpose, remains a question that has defied generations of investigation. Was it intended as a medical guide, an alchemical treatise, a coded diary, or an elaborate hoax? Each possibility holds intrigue, yet none provides a definitive explanation. The illustrations themselves heighten the mystery. Some pages resemble herbal manuals, with isolated plants labeled in the unknown script. Others are astrological or cosmological, depicting suns, moons, and zodiac-like constellations, often accompanied by human figures whose gestures and positions remain cryptic. Then there are pages featuring what appear to be pools, pipes, or interconnected vessels, sometimes populated by nude figures, all arranged in patterns that suggest ritual, science, or allegory. What knowledge was the creator attempting to preserve? What worldview is encoded in these images, a worldview lost to time and memory? Scholars, cryptographers, and amateur enthusiasts have examined the manuscript from every conceivable angle. During World War II, it even drew the attention of code breakers who tried to apply wartime cryptographic techniques to decode it. Linguists and computer scientists have analyzed its structure, noting patterns, repetition, and distribution that strongly resemble natural language. Yet no translation or decryption has been universally accepted. Could it be a lost language, a constructed code, or a private system of thought? And if so, what drove its creation? Was it intellectual curiosity, mystical devotion, or something more personal and hidden? The manuscript's botanical illustrations are particularly tantalizing. While they suggest careful observation, the plants themselves are often hybrids or unidentifiable species. Could this represent an attempt to catalog exotic flora unknown to Europe at the time? Or does it reflect imaginative creation, a symbolic representation of knowledge rather than empirical documentation? Each page teeters between the familiar and the alien, forcing the observer to question whether they are looking at reality, fantasy, or some combination of the two. Astrological sections of the manuscript raise additional questions. Wheels, charts, and star maps indicate knowledge of celestial cycles, yet their precise meaning remains speculative. Do these diagrams correspond to actual astronomical events, ritual calendars, or symbolic cosmologies? And if such knowledge was encoded, what culture, school, or secret society sought to preserve it in this form? The Voynich Manuscript seems designed to be seen, to be studied, yet intentionally resists understanding, a deliberate puzzle that teases, frustrates, and invites endless inquiry. Speculation about the manuscript has ranged from the scholarly to the fantastical. Some theories propose that it is an alchemical manual, intended to conceal knowledge of medicine, chemistry, or spirituality from those uninitiated. Others suggest connections to mystical or esoteric traditions, imagining it as a coded book of secrets, perhaps meant for a small, select audience. More speculative hypotheses have linked it to extraterrestrial knowledge, parallel languages, or lost civilizations. While these ideas inspire fascination, the manuscript's true purpose remains grounded in mystery, an artifact that refuses to surrender its secrets to interpretation, yet continues to captivate those who encounter it. The physicality of the manuscript itself is remarkable. Its vellum pages are thick, often slightly warped, suggesting careful preparation and the passage of centuries. The ink varies in color, sometimes faded, sometimes vivid, yet uniformly applied across the codex, indicating a sustained effort, attention to detail, and extraordinary patience. It is a human creation, meticulously executed, yet one that defies comprehension. Who devoted months or years to its production, and why? What knowledge, thought, or vision compelled such extraordinary labor, only to leave future generations grappling with uncertainty? Unlike monumental structures such as the Ziggurat of Ur or the Gate of the Sun, the Voynich Manuscript is portable, intimate, and enigmatic on a personal scale. It is not a public display of power, devotion, or architectural mastery, but a private window into thought, imagination, and perhaps secrecy. It challenges modern assumptions about communication, literacy, and the transmission of knowledge. It is a reminder that even small, personal objects can carry extraordinary significance, preserving the intellectual and imaginative life of a creator lost to history. The manuscript's enduring mystery is heightened by its long history of custody. From libraries to private collections, from scholars to collectors, it has survived wars, neglect, and changing tides of scholarly interest, yet has resisted complete understanding. Each new analysis, computational attempt, or linguistic study adds fragments of insight, but no definitive answers. It is as if the manuscript were designed to test the observer, to challenge the boundaries of comprehension, and to ensure that its secrets endure as long as human curiosity persists. The Voynich Manuscript invites reflection not only on its content, but also on the nature of knowledge itself. What does it mean to possess a document whose meaning remains inaccessible? How do we interpret symbols without context or images without cultural reference? In a sense, the manuscript is a mirror, reflecting the limits of our understanding while simultaneously challenging us to push beyond them. It asks us to consider the breadth of human creativity, the possibilities of language and thought, and the mysteries that endure in the spaces between what is known and what is hidden. Like the Gate of the Sun, the Ziggurat of Ur, and the Mask of Agamemnon, the Voynich Manuscript reminds us that human civilizations leave behind artifacts that are both revealing and concealing. It is a vessel of knowledge, intention, and imagination, yet it is simultaneously a riddle, resistant to interpretation and open to endless inquiry. What secrets lie encoded in its flowing script? What ideas, practices, or visions inspired its creation? And what does it tell us about the human desire to communicate, preserve, and challenge understanding across time and space? The Voynich Manuscript endures as a silent companion to centuries of human curiosity. Its pages, filled with untranslatable symbols and uncanny illustrations, beckon scholars, cryptographers, and enthusiasts to decipher, decode, and comprehend, yet their full meaning remains elusive. As we continue our exploration of the world's most enduring archaeological mysteries, it serves as a reminder that not all knowledge is easily accessed, not all histories are recorded in ways we can interpret, and that some artifacts, no matter how meticulously crafted, will continue to guard their secrets, inspiring wonder, reflection, and the inexhaustible pursuit of understanding. From the enigmatic pages of the Voynich Manuscript, where language and meaning evade comprehension, our journey now moves westward across seas and centuries to the windswept plains of Ireland. Here, nestled among the rolling fields of County Meath, lies a monument of stone, earth, and celestial wonder, the Newgrange Passage Tomb. Unlike books or inscriptions, this is a structure built not to be read with eyes alone, but to be experienced, to guide the body and spirit through space, light, and time. Rising above the pale winter grass, Newgrange is a massive circular mound, over 80 meters in diameter and almost 13 meters high, encircled by more than 97 curbstones, each engraved with intricate spirals, lozenges, and swirling motifs that speak to an understanding of geometry, symbolism, and artistry astonishing for its age. Constructed around 3200 BCE, it predates Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, marking it as one of the oldest monumental structures in the world. Its creators left no written records, yet the tomb communicates across millennia, offering a glimpse into the spiritual and social imagination of Neolithic Ireland. The mound conceals a narrow passage that leads to a central chamber constructed of massive stones, some weighing tens of tons, fitted together with extraordinary precision. The chamber is cruciform in shape, with 3 smaller recesses branching from the main space, forming a layout that suggests both ritual function and symbolic significance. Every stone seems deliberate. Each placement evokes both structural necessity and sacred intent. How did communities, without wheels, pulleys, or iron tools, transport and position these enormous megaliths? And what compelled them to undertake such extraordinary labor in a harsh, pre-industrial landscape? Newgrange is not merely a tomb, it is a celestial instrument. Each year, during the winter solstice, a narrow shaft above the entrance aligns perfectly with the rising sun, illuminating the inner chamber for just minutes. The effect is breathtaking. Golden light spills across the stone floor, revealing the textures and contours of the central space. For those few moments, the mound transforms, bridging the terrestrial and the cosmic, the human and the divine. How did its builders achieve such precision without modern instruments? Was this alignment a demonstration of astronomical knowledge, spiritual devotion, or a symbolic gesture linking the cycles of the sun with life, death, and rebirth? The carvings on the curbstones, portal stones, and inner chambers heighten the mystery. Spirals, concentric circles, and abstract motifs dominate, often arranged in patterns that suggest cosmological meaning or ritual significance. Some researchers interpret them as solar or lunar symbols. Others suggest they may encode myths, genealogies, or spiritual journeys. The sheer density and consistency of these motifs indicate a coherent symbolic language, yet one whose meaning is lost to time. Were these carvings meant to guide the spirit of the deceased, to mark the passage of celestial cycles, or to communicate communal knowledge that transcended generations? The tomb's construction speaks to a highly organized society. The coordination required to quarry stone, transport massive blocks across uneven terrain, and assemble the chamber with such precision implies a network of skilled laborers, planners, and perhaps ritual specialists. Who oversaw this monumental effort? Were the builders motivated purely by reverence for ancestors, by social hierarchy, or by a belief in spiritual or cosmic principles that we can no longer grasp? And if this structure was so central to their culture, what other monuments, knowledge, or practices might have existed and subsequently vanished without a trace? Archaeological excavations reveal evidence of ritual activity, including cremated human remains, pottery fragments, and ceremonial objects. These findings suggest that Newgrange functioned not only as a tomb, but as a site of communal and spiritual significance, perhaps a center for seasonal ceremonies or initiations. Yet without written records, we can only infer purpose from form, placement, and material culture. What rituals were enacted within the chamber? What experiences did participants undergo as they entered the darkness and emerged into light or observed the solstice illumination? How much of the knowledge and meaning embedded in Newgrange has been lost to millennia? Speculation abounds regarding the broader role of Newgrange within Neolithic society. Some scholars suggest it was part of a network of passage tombs across Ireland, a system linking communities through shared ritual, astronomy, and myth. Others propose that the tomb's solstice alignment reflects an early understanding of timekeeping, seasonal cycles, or agricultural planning. Some have even posited symbolic interpretations of the spirals and carvings, seeing in them cosmologies, metaphysical principles, or abstract representations of life, death, and continuity. Yet none of these theories can fully capture the lived experience of the people who created, used, and revered this monument. The tomb also invites reflection on human ambition and imagination. Its builders worked in an era without metal tools, mechanized transport, or formalized mathematics, yet they achieved an architectural and astronomical feat that continues to inspire awe. Each stone embodies both practical ingenuity and symbolic intent, a marriage of craftsmanship and worldview. How much of their understanding of the cosmos, of mortality, or of social cohesion is encoded in the mound's design? And what does it tell us about the universality of human desire to leave a mark upon the earth, to communicate with forces beyond ourselves, and to seek permanence in the face of mortality? Newgrange exemplifies the tension between the known and the unknown. We can measure its dimensions, observe its alignments, catalog its carvings, and reconstruct aspects of its construction. Yet the tomb retains an aura of mystery that transcends empirical analysis. What spiritual or cosmological principles guided its design? How did Neolithic communities experience its rituals, its light, and its space? What ideas, beliefs, or stories are forever lost, leaving us only with the monumental remnants of intention and devotion? Standing before Newgrange today, one senses the interplay of time, labor, and imagination. The mound rises gently from the surrounding landscape, yet it carries within it the weight of centuries of observation, planning, and sacred intent. The winter solstice illumination, visible for mere minutes, reminds us that human beings have long sought to harmonize life with celestial cycles, to mark time, and to honor forces greater than themselves. It is a monument not only to death but to continuity, a reminder that civilizations seek to inscribe their understanding of the universe upon the earth itself. Like the Voynich Manuscript, the Gate of the Sun, and the Mask of Agamemnon, Newgrange is both revelation and enigma. It preserves knowledge, artistry, and ritual, yet it withholds full comprehension. Its carvings, alignments, and structural ingenuity continue to provoke questions. How did they achieve such architectural precision? What motivated the elaborate carvings and astronomical orientation? And what broader system of belief or knowledge guided the construction of this remarkable tomb? Newgrange stands as a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and reverence, yet it also reminds us of the limits of our understanding. For all the stones measured, carvings catalogued, and alignments studied, the full meaning of this passage tomb remains elusive. It challenges us to reflect on the depth of Neolithic thought, the complexity of ritual, and the enduring desire to connect with forces beyond the immediate world. And as we continue to explore the world's most mysterious archaeological sites, Newgrange invites us to wonder, what other knowledge, practices, and visions lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to illuminate the depths of human imagination and ingenuity? From the rolling green hills and ancient earthworks of Newgrange, where stone and sunlight merge to create a passage for both the living and the departed, our journey now moves south, across continents and cultures, to the rugged highlands of Ethiopia. Here, among jagged cliffs and volcanic formations, lies a wonder carved not from quarried stone, but from the living rock itself, the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. For centuries, these extraordinary structures have inspired awe, reverence, and profound curiosity, standing as silent testaments to human ingenuity, devotion, and mystery. Perched in the heart of the Ethiopian highlands, the town of Lalibela is a place where history, spirituality, and landscape converge. Around the 12th and 13th centuries, during the Zagwe dynasty, a series of 11 monolithic churches were meticulously carved directly into the bedrock, forming an architectural ensemble unparalleled in scale and ambition. These structures are not mere surface carvings or facades. They are fully realized buildings, hollowed out from solid rock, complete with interiors, windows, doorways, and altars. From a distance, they appear as part of the landscape itself, blending seamlessly with cliffs and plateaus. Yet up close, their intricate carvings, precise geometry, and monumental proportions reveal the extraordinary human effort invested in their creation. The largest and most renowned of these churches, Beta Georgis, or the Church of St. George, is shaped like a cross and carved entirely downward into the rock. Its steep, sheer walls and sharply defined edges give the impression of a structure both delicate and eternal. The precision is astonishing. Corners are sharp, surfaces flat, and angles perfectly executed, all hewn from a single massive block. How did builders of the 12th century achieve such technical mastery using only hand tools? What methods guided the excavation, measurement, and alignment of structures that are both functional and symbolic? The layout of the churches suggests more than architectural intent. It hints at cosmic and spiritual meaning. Connected by an intricate system of tunnels, passageways, and trenches, the ensemble forms a cohesive complex, a sacred city carved into stone. Some scholars propose that the site was designed as a New Jerusalem, a terrestrial reflection of the Holy City, created for pilgrims who could not journey to the Levant. Others point to symbolic alignments with celestial events or the surrounding terrain, suggesting that the Zagwe kings intended the complex to function as both a spiritual and astronomical instrument. Yet, despite centuries of study, definitive evidence for these theories remains elusive. The surfaces of the churches are richly adorned with carved reliefs, often depicting crosses, rosettes, and other motifs whose meanings are layered and multifaceted. Within the interiors, pillars, niches, and altars speak to careful planning and deep religious intent. Some carvings suggest a synthesis of Christian iconography with indigenous symbolism, hinting at a society negotiating identity, faith, and artistic expression in a unique highland environment. The combination of technical sophistication and symbolic depth invites speculation. Did these artisans possess secret knowledge of geometry or sacred proportion? Were the tunnels and corridors designed for ceremonial processions, mystical initiations, or practical purposes like drainage and climate control? The construction itself is an enduring mystery. Each church required the removal of thousands of tons of rock, yet there are no records detailing the methods or labor organization involved. How did workers plan such a monumental endeavor? Were they guided by architects, priests, or visionary leaders? And why did the Zagwe dynasty dedicate such extraordinary effort to this remote highland plateau? Some suggest political and religious motives. Others propose that the project embodied a spiritual mission to create a terrestrial reflection of heaven itself, a sacred city capable of sustaining devotion across generations. Pilgrimage and ritual continue to animate the site to this day. Lalibela remains a vibrant center of Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity, where believers walk through tunnels, enter shadowed chambers, and emerge into sanctuaries illuminated by shafts of sunlight. The effect is both intimate and overwhelming. Light filters through carved windows, highlighting the textures and reliefs, while shadows accentuate the depth and precision of the stonework. How did the original builders conceive of these experiences? Did they anticipate the interplay of light and shadow, the movement of the faithful, and the rhythms of ritual in such carefully carved spaces? The churches seem alive, designed not only to endure centuries but to shape human perception and spiritual experience. Speculative interpretations abound. Some researchers have proposed that the churches were aligned with solstices or cardinal directions, encoding astronomical knowledge into their layout. Others suggest that the tunnels, passageways, and subterranean chambers were used for esoteric rites, possibly connected to initiations or mystical practices. Yet little evidence exists to confirm such theories, and the passage of centuries has obscured the cultural context that might explain these extraordinary design choices. The churches, like the Gate of the Sun or the Voynich Manuscript, present a compelling tension between what is observable and what remains hidden, inviting reflection on the limits of historical and archaeological understanding. The labor, skill, and vision required for Lalibela remain staggering. Monolithic blocks were shaped, carved, and polished in situ. Trenches were dug to precise depth and orientation, and the rock was manipulated to create interiors that are at once structurally sound and aesthetically harmonious. What guided these artisans? Were they following established architectural traditions now lost to time, or pioneering entirely new methods through trial, observation, and intuition? The precision achieved suggests both practical ingenuity and profound understanding of material, form, and space, knowledge that continues to astonish modern observers. Beyond its construction, Lalibela holds symbolic power. The site was intended as more than a collection of churches. It was a sacred landscape, a spiritual city carved into the earth, linking the human and the divine. Some have suggested that the entire plateau functioned as a map of Jerusalem, a site of pilgrimage for those unable to journey to the Holy Land. Others propose that its underground corridors and hidden chambers encoded esoteric knowledge, accessible only to the initiated. Yet, without contemporary records, much of the original intent is lost, leaving only the enduring stone as witness. The churches of Lalibela exemplify the intersection of human devotion, creativity, and mystery. They are monuments to faith and ingenuity, yet they also resist full comprehension. Each passage, each carved motif, each carefully aligned window or doorway invites questions about purpose, technique, and symbolism. How did the Zagwe artisans translate vision into stone? What spiritual or political imperatives drove the creation of a city that is both functional and transcendent? And what knowledge, belief, or ritual has been lost, leaving modern observers to marvel at the structures while confronting the limits of understanding? Like Newgrange, the Gate of the Sun, and the Voynich Manuscript, the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela remind us that human civilizations have long sought to inscribe meaning upon the world, to shape experience, and to communicate across generations. They demonstrate mastery of technique, profound symbolism, and spiritual imagination. Yet they also preserve mystery, an incomplete record of intentions, experiences, and knowledge. For all the careful measurements, cataloging of motifs, and study of alignments, Lalibela retains secrets encoded in stone, waiting for those who seek to understand not just the structures themselves, but the human impulse that produced them. Standing today amidst the shadowed corridors, towering pillars, and sunlit sanctuaries, one senses the layered history of labor, devotion, and imagination. The churches rise from the rock with a quiet dignity, embodying the tension between permanence and impermanence, revelation and concealment. And as we continue our journey through the world's most enigmatic archaeological mysteries, Lalibela beckons us to ask, what ideas, techniques, and beliefs are hidden in plain sight, waiting for insight and imagination to uncover them? What remains unseen beneath the surface, and what does it tell us about the depth and complexity of human creativity across time? From the highlands of Ethiopia, where stone and devotion coalesce in the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, our journey now carries us across vast deserts and shifting sands to a landscape both forbidding and beguiling, the empty quarter of Arabia, or Rub al-Khali. Here, under an expanse of endless dunes, wind-sculpted and sun-baked, lies the site of one of the most elusive and enduring legends in the ancient world, the lost city of Ubar, a city whose very existence has long straddled the boundary between history and myth. Ubar, sometimes called Iram of the Pillars in the Quran, has fascinated travelers, historians, and explorers for centuries. It is described as a wealthy city of opulence and commerce, renowned for its trade in frankincense, myrrh, and precious goods. Yet it was also said to have been destroyed, swallowed by the desert in a single, cataclysmic event. Tales of its sudden disappearance conjure images of shifting sands, consuming streets and palaces, leaving only whispers and fragments behind. What manner of civilization could rise to such prominence in the forbidding expanse of Arabia, only to vanish so completely from human memory? Archaeological investigations in the late 20th century, employing satellite imagery and ground surveys, identified the site of Shisr in Oman as a possible location for Ubar. Excavations revealed remnants of walls, cisterns, and caravan routes, suggesting a settlement that thrived in a harsh desert environment. Evidence of ancient trade networks connecting the Arabian Peninsula to Mesopotamia and beyond hints at the city's historical reality. Yet, despite these findings, questions persist. Was this truly the legendary Ubar, or merely one of many settlements along the incense trade routes, elevated in lore to the status of legend? The desert itself plays a crucial role in Ubar's enduring mystery. The Rub al-Khali is one of the largest sand deserts in the world, its dunes shifting constantly, reshaping the landscape in cycles that span decades. To navigate, inhabit, or sustain life in such an environment requires extraordinary ingenuity, water management, knowledge of subterranean aquifers, and mastery of caravan logistics. How did Ubar's inhabitants manage these challenges? What technologies or social structures allowed them to build a city in such a fragile environment? And how much of their knowledge, lost with the sands, might have been irretrievably erased as dunes buried streets, homes, and temples? The descriptions preserved in ancient texts paint a picture both alluring and tragic. According to legend, Ubar was a city of immense wealth, its streets lined with pillars, its rulers presiding over vast trade networks, and its prosperity rivaling that of great empires. Yet the city is also portrayed as decadent and hubristic, eventually incurring divine wrath, punished by floods, earthquakes, or the very sands themselves. Such accounts complicate the line between history and allegory. Was Ubar a cautionary tale, a moralized history transmitted through generations? Or do these accounts reflect actual events, geological or climatic catastrophes, that reshaped the desert landscape? Satellite imagery has revealed what appear to be ancient tracks converging on the Shisar site, remnants of incense trade routes that once crisscrossed the Arabian Peninsula. These tracks suggest a hub of commerce, a city integrated into networks of exchange stretching across continents. Archaeologists have found evidence of fortifications, building foundations, and cisterns, supporting the notion of a settlement adapted to a desert environment. Yet the scale and grandeur described in legend remain elusive. No ruins of palaces, massive pillars, or monumental architecture have yet been confirmed. Could the city of lore have been exaggerated, or have the sands of time and windstorm literally buried the evidence? Speculative interpretations abound. Some propose that Ubar was a thriving oasis city, its wealth drawn from frankincense and myrrh trade, gradually abandoned as trade routes shifted or climatic conditions changed. Others suggest a more dramatic scenario: sudden collapse due to tectonic activity, water scarcity, or cataclysmic sand movements, explaining its disappearance from historical record. There are even theories that Ubar represents multiple sites, a network of settlements conflated in legend, each contributing fragments to the myth. The truth remains as elusive as the desert horizon, resisting both definitive mapping and complete archaeological reconstruction. The challenges of desert archaeology only amplify the mystery. Excavating in the Rub al-Khali is fraught with logistical difficulties. Extreme heat, shifting sands, and the isolation of the terrain make systematic study challenging. Layers of sediment conceal and preserve simultaneously, making it difficult to distinguish between natural formations and human-made structures. And yet, the desert preserves traces of habitation, subtle depressions, stone alignments, and ancient wells that hint at the ingenuity and perseverance of those who lived and traded there. What secrets lie buried beneath meters of sand, waiting for careful excavation to reveal the stories of lives, commerce, and human ambition long forgotten? Ubar also evokes reflection on the intersection of geography, myth, and memory. Unlike cities such as Newgrange or Lalibela, whose locations are known and whose structures endure, Ubar's identity has been transmitted largely through texts, oral histories, and legend. Its existence has been questioned for centuries precisely because the desert erases as quickly as it preserves. Could Ubar's story reflect a real city, now lost to shifting sands? Or is it a symbolic memory of trade, civilization, and human ambition, a cautionary tale immortalized in scripture and story? Perhaps both are true. A real city amplified into legend, its disappearance magnified by the desert's power to obscure. The legend of Ubar also invites consideration of human resilience and adaptation. Any city capable of existing in the empty quarter would have required profound knowledge of water management, navigation, and survival strategies. Wells, cisterns, and perhaps subterranean reservoirs may have sustained life, while caravan networks ensured economic viability. What techniques allowed inhabitants to thrive in such a hostile environment? How did they negotiate the balance between human settlement and the unpredictable forces of nature? And if the city was indeed lost to the desert, what lessons about human fragility and endurance might we recover from its story? Beyond archaeology, Ubar occupies a place in imagination, literature, and cultural memory. It is a symbol of lost wealth, forgotten knowledge, and the impermanence of human achievement. Explorers, historians, and treasure seekers have all been drawn to the Rub al-Khali, hoping to uncover tangible evidence of a city whose story has inspired fascination for centuries. Yet the sands remain patient, shifting and reshaping, preserving fragments while hiding the whole, leaving modern observers to piece together narrative from stones, tracks, and texts. The interplay between legend and archaeology at Ubar highlights the broader challenges of understanding lost civilizations. Unlike Newgrange or Lalibela, whose structures endure and whose rituals can be partially reconstructed, Ubar exists primarily as a narrative, amplified by scripture, legend, and historical imagination. Yet the desert offers tantalizing clues. Remnants of walls, traces of caravan roads, and evidence of habitation hint that the story may be grounded in reality. The mystery lies in deciphering which aspects are factual, which are symbolic, and which may forever remain lost to time. Ubar, like the Rock-Hewn churches, the Gate of the Sun, and the Voynich Manuscript, embodies the tension between evidence and imagination. It is a city of commerce and culture, perhaps of ingenuity and grandeur, yet its physical remains are fleeting, hidden beneath sand and obscured by millennia. It challenges us to question the ways in which civilizations rise, prosper, and disappear, and to reflect on the mechanisms through which memory and myth preserve history, or distort it. How much of human achievement is erased by natural forces, and how much survives only through narrative, legend, and imagination? Standing in the imagined streets of Ubar, one senses both absence and presence, absence of walls and pillars, presence of story, memory, and enduring curiosity. The desert whispers of trade, labor, ambition, and perhaps sudden calamity, leaving us with fragments and questions rather than definitive answers. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most enigmatic archaeological mysteries, the lost city of Ubar invites us to consider not only what lies buried beneath sand, but what remains hidden in the intersection of myth, memory, and the human desire to create, endure, and be remembered. From the windswept sands of the empty quarter, where the lost city of Ubar eludes both time and eye, our journey turns to the restless waters of the Caribbean, where beneath the turquoise waves off the northern coast of Cuba, another enigma waits: the underwater ruins of Cuba. Here, submerged stone formations lie scattered across the ocean floor, rising like spectral monuments from the depths, their origins and purpose shrouded in mystery. In this realm of salt water and shadow, the line between natural formation and human design becomes uncertain, inviting both wonder and skepticism. The site lies near the town of Varadero, off Cuba's northern coastline, where ocean currents glide over a landscape that appears at first glance to be a natural seabed of jagged limestone and sand. Yet detailed sonar mapping and underwater photography reveal patterns that defy casual explanation. Straight lines, terraces, steps, and geometric arrangements suggest design, intent, and craftsmanship. Some formations resemble pyramids, plazas, and avenues, while others hint at structures similar to temples or monumental platforms. How could such a city, if indeed it is human-made, have come to rest beneath the sea? Were these ruins once part of a civilization lost to rising oceans? Or is nature crafting illusions that echo the forms of cities we recognize on land? Initial exploration in the late 20th century drew the attention of geologists, archaeologists, and divers. The formations lie at depths ranging from 20 to 600 feet, depending on location and tidal conditions, creating logistical challenges for study. Divers have reported smooth, flat surfaces, angular edges, and stair-like terraces, features uncommon in purely natural formations. Some stones appear shaped or sculpted, their alignment too precise to be purely accidental. What forces shaped these forms? Tectonics, erosion, or human hands? And if they were carved by people, what tools, techniques, and knowledge were employed, particularly given the depth and age of submersion? Carbon dating and sediment analysis provide tantalizing hints, yet no definitive answers. Some researchers propose that these structures were part of an ancient coastal city, submerged gradually by rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age, roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. This timeline would place the ruins in a period when human civilizations were largely nomadic, making monumental stone construction extraordinary and raising questions about the social and technological capabilities of these early peoples. Could a previously unknown culture have existed with skills surpassing what we currently attribute to prehistoric societies? The debate over origin and authenticity has fueled both academic study and popular fascination. Skeptics argue that the formations are natural limestone outcrops, sculpted by millennia of ocean currents, erosion, and fracturing. Supporters of the human-made theory point to apparent symmetry, terraces, and patterns reminiscent of other ancient megalithic sites worldwide, suggesting intentional design. The tension between these perspectives mirrors other archaeological enigmas. The ruins challenge observers to reconcile observable facts with interpretation, leaving room for speculation while resisting definitive categorization. Underwater exploration has revealed pathways and features resembling roads or avenues, as well as rectangular blocks that could have functioned as building foundations. Some stones bear grooves and depressions that hint at modification or carving. Could these remnants represent streets, plazas, or ceremonial spaces? Or are these impressions simply the results of natural stress and marine erosion, a pattern recognized by the human mind in its search for order and familiarity? The ambiguity is profound. Each photograph, each sonar scan, raises as many questions as it answers. Local legends and folklore add another layer to the mystery. Some Cuban traditions speak of ancient cities swallowed by the sea, populated by civilizations whose knowledge and wealth rivaled later empires. These narratives resonate with accounts from other cultures, such as the myth of Atlantis, suggesting that tales of submerged cities are a recurring motif in human imagination. Are these stories echoes of real events, transmitted across generations, or symbolic expressions of cultural memory and cautionary tale? And if there is truth in these tales, what forces, tectonic shifts, storms, or rising seas might have claimed these cities and erased most traces of human activity? The geological context is equally compelling. The Yucatan Channel and surrounding seafloor exhibit evidence of tectonic activity, underwater faults, and past shifts in sea level. Such forces could plausibly submerge settlements or reshape coastlines over thousands of years. Yet the precision of some formations challenges this explanation. Terraces, angular blocks, and geometric layouts suggest planning and labor rather than random geological processes. Could human builders have constructed monumental structures in coastal areas that were later engulfed by the sea? Or is this a rare confluence of natural processes producing an illusion of civilization beneath the waves? Explorers and scientists have also noted that many of the submerged stones display unusual physical properties. Some exhibit smooth polish and sharp edges inconsistent with typical erosion, while others seem aligned along cardinal axes. These features hint at deliberate action, yet they remain enigmatic. What motivated their creation, and how were they maintained in a prehistorical or ancient era? If submerged cities once existed here, what knowledge of engineering, surveying, and social organization would have been required to plan and execute such construction? The human element is central to the allure of the Cuban underwater ruins. Imagining a society capable of monumental architecture, thriving along the coastlines of prehistoric Cuba, challenges assumptions about early human activity in the Americas. Could these structures predate known civilizations in the region? Did they possess religious, ceremonial, or political significance? And perhaps most hauntingly, why did they disappear beneath the waves, leaving only enigmatic stone forms as testimony to human ambition? Photographs, sonar scans, and diving expeditions capture fragments of this submerged world, but the full picture remains inaccessible. Currents, visibility, and depth hinder comprehensive study, while sediment and marine life obscure details. Each dive reveals new patterns and anomalies, yet the interpretation of these remains speculative. What secrets might be hidden beneath the silt and shadows of the ocean floor? Could deeper exploration uncover artifacts, inscriptions, or evidence that confirms human presence and intention? The mystery of the Cuban ruins is also a reflection on the impermanence of human achievement. Unlike stone monuments on land, the ocean imposes both preservation and destruction. Water erodes, supports, and transforms simultaneously. What civilizations might have risen and fallen along ancient coastlines, their cities now claimed by the sea? How much knowledge, technology, and artistry has vanished beneath waves, leaving only the faintest whispers to challenge our understanding of early human history? The site invites contemplation not only of the past, but of human curiosity itself. We are drawn to places like the Cuban ruins because they evoke both possibility and uncertainty. Each terrace, each angular block, and each linear pattern encourages questions about human ingenuity, survival, and adaptation. Could ancient mariners and builders have created monumental architecture in an era we assume incapable of such feats? And if so, what other traces of forgotten civilizations might remain submerged, scattered, or hidden, waiting to challenge our narratives of human development? Like Ubar, Lalibela, and Göbekli Tepe, the underwater ruins of Cuba straddle the line between legend and reality, nature and human intervention, evidence and imagination. They offer a vision of a world that may have existed, a civilization lost to time and tide, or a natural phenomenon whose mystery continues to captivate explorers, scientists, and the human imagination alike. The site reminds us that the past is not only beneath our feet, but beneath the waves, and that history often preserves its secrets in places we least expect. As we imagine standing above the sunlit water, looking down into the depths at terraces, blocks, and shadows, we confront the tension between what is known and what is unknowable. The ruins of Cuba challenge our assumptions about civilization, technology, and the fragility of human achievements. And as we continue our exploration of the world's most enigmatic archaeological mysteries, these submerged formations invite us to ask, what other cities, knowledge, and histories lie hidden beneath the oceans, waiting for discovery? What stories have been lost to time, water, and memory? And what truths might one day emerge from the depths to illuminate the ingenuity and ambition of humanity across the ages?